as a region we can be extremely proud of some achievements by certainly the people in this place that deliver services to all our people across the Central Highlands. Had the opportunity on the weekend of attending an industry awards function in Rockhampton for the Central Queensland region. And needless to say, the text messages were running riot on Saturday night when we were notified of the fact that the Central Highlands region, and certainly members of the Central Highlands Regional Council staff, individuals who had nominated in different areas, had won 2 awards. So look, I think it's only appropriate for the people that were actually there and celebrating well. I know Tanya Rouse, Alicia Caddick, Toby's here, Will is here. Tanya, if you might come down and just talk about, I guess, the achievements certainly of the team. Fitted in with the netball, but
that was a bad photo.
It's a little honeycomb.
Okay, so first of all, I just wanted to read a little extract from the nomination that we actually submitted. I'm not sure if anyone's had a chance to read the nomination. We're pretty proud of the achievement. Happy Awards Night, Alicia and I were pretty excited, and I got a little bit teary. It was pretty exciting for us to win such a big award across the region. The region spans from Gladstone out west to Longreach. It goes out to Diamantina. There was nominations from out there north up to Mackay. So it's a fairly big region, and so we're pretty excited to win the Large Employer of the Year. So I can just quickly read out just a little bit. I'm sure you know most of this, but so the Central Highlands Regional Council is committed to building the capacity of our workforce by providing opportunities for employees to attain and maintain qualifications and participate in skills development programs. We offer a range of professional development and learning opportunities to ensure our staff have the skills and knowledge to deliver the highest quality services to our community while setting our highest priority as safety and well-being of our people. We touch more on, as a core component of our Growing Our Own initiative, Council is in the final stages of development of a dynamic workforce partnership with the Central Queensland University and SkillsTech to launch our Water Industry Academy. This initiative has been championed by our CEO Scott Mason through the passion for progressive regional communities. The CEO has driven this initiative through consultation with many other Central Queensland Council CEOs in response to the growing demand and critical industry shortage of qualified water industry employees. This year's certainly been busy so far for our organisation in the learning and development sphere. We've partnered with many training organisations to assist us to deliver the highest quality opportunities to our employees. We've delivered a switch on safety program and change management transformation program through the whole of the organisation. These 2 programs were developed to ensure that the design of these programs is to suit our diverse organisation and industry types. As a local council covering an amazing diversity of cultures, learning styles, career opportunities and levels of understanding, designing these programs has been an interesting and welcome challenge. Through great collaboration and planning, our organisations together have delivered programs which have interested and excited our employees. We're getting some great feedback from our workforce on these programs and also high results in our staff survey, specifically for the safety area, which cements that the programs and the delivery types was a good fit for our organisation. During 1890, Council has supported the development of 32 trainees, apprentices, co-op and cadet students who are provided with a combination of on-the-job, structured learning and also through university and I forget what we're into that, through universities and obviously our RTOs. So we've provided 325 of our current employees with accredited training this year, which could be upskilling current or new employees through our trainees and apprentices, and we've also had 32 new or existing trainees and apprentices this year. So we've done a whole lot of work this year, so we're pretty proud of it. If you haven't had a chance, have a read of the nomination because there's some, a lot of great stuff in there. So that was about our Large Organisation of the Year nomination. So Alicia did all the work for a lot of this, and so I want to acknowledge Alicia and all the work that she does in our training and apprentice program. So she's going to come forward and just give you an overview on our individual awards.
Thanks, Tanya. I won't keep you long, I know you've got a jam-packed agenda, but I just wanted to give you a quick overview of the actual process that we had to take, or have to take each year for the Queensland Training Awards. So basically, this year we submitted 4 nominations across 4 different categories. As part of the nomination process, we're required to submit nominations answering across 5 different categories. So it can be anywhere between 3,000 and 4,000 words each nomination. This year's nominees in the 4 categories, we had Toby Greenberry. Toby, if you could stand up, in the Bob Marshman Trainee of the Year category, completing a Cert 2 in horticulture. We had Will DeVries in the Vocational Student of the Year. Will completed a Diploma of Procurement and Contracting. We had Blake Davies, our apprentice diesel fitter that completed, he's in our Doringa workshop, who is now he actually completed a Certificate 3 Civil Engineering traineeship with us prior to his apprenticeship, and now he's moved into a leading hand role in the Doringa workshop and doing great things out there for our young apprentices coming through. So that's been fantastic. And then obviously the Large Employer of the Year, so and it was double the size of the rest of the nominations. So this year there was up to 900 nominations across the state. From there they get shortlisted to go to the next stage, which is the phone interview stage. So to reach that stage, you have to make the top 5 of your category. So that's pretty impressive in itself, and all 4 of our nominations made the top 5. So they all came through to the phone interview stage, including Blake and Doringa. The Apprentice of the Year is the big gong, if you could put it like that. They have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of applications, so to make the top 5 for him was pretty amazing. So all 4 made it through, and then in June we were notified that because of their exceptional performance in their phone interviews, that they all made the top 3 and were all named finalists. These guys, I should say. So that happened there. So we were extremely proud to represent CHRC on Saturday night in Rockhampton. It was a lovely night. It really is something spectacular. They just do the most amazing job. The Queensland Training Awards, it's a big event. So we were lucky enough, obviously, to have Toby named the Bob Marshman Trainee of the Year for the Central Queensland region, which is the 2nd year in a row we've taken out that category, which is fantastic. Michelle was in there last year. So for me, I think from a personal note, Toby is such has such an infectious effect on people around him, and has been a pleasure facilitating his journey through his traineeship in 2018. He's an inspiration to many for his selflessness and his never give up attitude no matter what life throws at you, mate. We've had a few spanners in the works in the last 18 months, but he's fought through each and every one of those obstacles and come through really, really well. So well done, mate. You should be proud of yourself. Now, Will, 2 years in a row, like I said, has been a finalist, which is an amazing achievement. So I think Will's commitment and dedication to his continuous learning and building his knowledge and skill set, not being content with where he's at. He's always looking to push the boundaries and be better. So I've personally witnessed not just professional growth, but his personal growth has been enormous in the last 2 years. And the way he then transfers that into his job each and every day is something that you should be really proud of, mate. So well done. So pretty much from here on in, Tanya's already done her spiel, but from here on in, Toby and whoever the representatives will be that go to the next stage will go to the state finals on the 14th of September in Brisbane. To then we automatically become state finalists, but we still need to go through the next interview round, which will be more phone interviews, so a lot more research and a lot more work to go into that next round. We'll go to Brisbane on the 14th of September, and then if we're successful, we go through to the national finals. So that would be something amazing, obviously, but we'll take one step at a time and do the best we can to get us through the next round. So that's just a bit of a recap from me. So, Toby, have you got anything you'd like to say quickly?
Just thank you to everyone for the training that he's provided. It's really amazing, especially Alicia. She's been there for me inside and outside of work. I think she's the right person for the job. But the opportunities are unreal for growth, even after this. I'm planning on doing more, hoping to get a degree. So I've got a really good team behind me with Rollo, Heath. They don't sort of let me stop. They're still pushing me even this afternoon. So, but yeah, no, I mean, put that in there. If they're about drama, we can always take it to him. So, thank you very much.
Folks, just so you know, I'm very lucky that Toby got to get this award because I saw Rollo Davey had a fairly firm grasp on it. I wasn't sure we were going to get it back, or there might have been an ashtray attached to it. Look, it needs to be said, and we need to acknowledge some people here, to Toby and Will and the team, and obviously the obviously people that keep doing training and keep being enthused and obviously encouraged by people that keep entering these competitions every year. This is about personal development, but at the end of the day, you wear that big CHRC up there, and I think that's what people need to know and understand. That it's really, really important that when you're doing well, our community really does well. We take that opportunity any chance we get. That can only happen though if there's a culture inside the place of us all wanting to go and get better. That starts with our CEO, and I know that Tanya acknowledged that in the words she said today, and certainly the application. When your leader starts to talk about encouraging everyone, and that includes Alicia and Tanya, and you have such wonderful mentors right through the organisation. I guess Will and Toby and certainly for the other trainees, obviously it makes it easy to think, well, people believe in me, then I'm prepared to believe in myself. So as councillors, all I want to say is that we'll make sure that we keep supporting those sorts of initiatives and making sure that those people in the organisation want to take the opportunity to serve and serve well and learn and improve as they go along. That will always be a priority. I'm really, really pleased for you and all the applicants this year. I'm wishing you all the best, certainly in September. Congratulations.
Alicia keeps slipping away and not taking any credit for any of this work. On behalf of the council, we just want to, and the HR team, we want to say thank you for all the work that you do, as Toby said, inside and outside. She takes everyone's, whether it's work related or personal, she takes it on board. She helps them through life in general. So we want to say thank you very much. Next year's Queensland.
Can I just say a couple of words? And I just want to say, when Alicia asked me whether or not I'd be available to be part of the team to represent council at the awards, it was, it was really sad moment for me because I had a commitment in my diary that I wanted to see through, and I couldn't meet two places at once. And to get those text messages on Saturday night at 9 o'clock and just after, let's just say everyone in the Mossman Bowls at the dinner party, and there was around about 40 of them, now know about CHRC, the council, the size, its commitment to recruiting young people into the organisation and picking from the best to have as part of our succession planning regime. And they were interested, and if they weren't interested, it wouldn't have mattered, they would have had that anyway. But it was a really proud moment for me, and I just wanted to echo the words of the Mayor and yourself too, Tanya and Alicia. What's been achieved here is remarkable, and for Will and Toby and for any other trainee that's been nominated, that in itself is a success story. To progress further than that is even better. And we know it's not about not all about awards, but awards are a great flag to know that you're on the right track. And our commitment, and part of this, to put it into context, is that we really want to genuinely provide a number of entry-level opportunities each year. And thank Council for providing the budget to be able to do that. And I also acknowledge the state government for the financial assistance that they provide, because that makes it that much easier to do this. But I would say that if the state government didn't have that funding available to offset the cost, I believe there's enough dedication, commitment and goodwill within this organisation that we would want to do it anyway. And that's the important thing, to have our local people come from our secondary schools, go into roles in local government, and yes, they will go off and leave us. Some will stay, some will delay pursuing their tertiary qualifications or attending a university or something like that. But it all starts with having those grassroots opportunities, and that's part of their long-term vision to have a succession plan working right throughout the organisation. So just on behalf of myself and the executive leadership team, take a bow, you've done well, and enjoy the success. Well done, Tanya, Alicia, Toby, Will and others. Thank you.
Thank you, team.
Sorry, mate.
Thanks. Yeah, zero. How many times have I did that? This is a dedicated to somebody else. Actually, animals perform that. It's good. Number 11.3. In the report, second paragraph.
Good stuff.
Thanks.
Well done.
You read it.
Right, councillors, back to our agenda. Thank you very much, Tony. And certainly welcome to all our live streamers who've just obviously got the opportunity of seeing that wonderful personal achievement by those individuals, and certainly our council team. So that was a great opportunity. Councillors, just to drawing your attention to the fact that we have an apology today from Councillor Christine Roll. She sought and was granted leave of absence prior to today. Someone happy to move Councillor Roll's apology, moved by Councillor McIntyre, second Councillor Brindlecombe. So it's been moved and seconded. Councillors, all in favour? Against? Thank you, carried. Councillors, as is our great duty and responsibility to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet here today, and we pay our respects to their elders past, present, and certainly to the emerging youth of the peoples that claim parts of the Central Highlands. Councillors, draw your attention to the confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting, and these are many and several. So if we can deal with the minutes of the General Council meeting on the 9th of July, and that starts on page 4 and extends to page 23, I think, on your agendas. Oh, sorry, no, my apologies. Councillors, just hold those minutes there for a moment. We've jumped over leave of absence. Is there any leave of absences required going forward?
I've got one already approved
Through, yeah, councillors.
for next meeting.
Any others? All good? Thanks, councillors. All right, councillors, just flick your gaze back to those first minutes. That's at the General Council meeting of the 9th of July. Someone had to move those that was present. Moved by Councillor Nixon, second Councillor Godwin-Smith. Now, we'll just go through those if there's something there that catches your eye before we adopt them. Councillor, we nominated Councillor Nixon there as a nomination for the chair of the Grading Way and other things in there. All right, councillors, being moved and seconded, all in favour? Against? Thank you. All right, councillors, now we want to do these separately or just together? Councillors, the minutes of the 3 standing committee meetings that we have on certainly the first Tuesday of the month, first meeting, there are finance and infrastructure, leadership and governance and community standing committee. That runs from page 23 to 65. We might work on those as a single resolution. So councillors, not having to move those. Moved by Councillor Brindlecombe, seconded. Councillor Godwin-Smith. Right, now there are a few pages in that, there's some 40 pages. Councillors, is there anything there that catches your eye as well? It might not be quite the correct record of those meetings. Right, councillors, there's nothing outstanding there. It's been moved and seconded. All in favour? Against? Thank you. Carried. Business arising into those minutes. That's either the general council meeting or those three steering committee minutes. Nothing in those, councillors. Right, review of outstanding meeting actions. And that, councillors, is a two-pager. Anything out of those? None of those have been completed. There are references to nothing. Right, councillors, there's nothing there. The review of upcoming agenda items, that's attached as well. There are quite a number of things obviously scheduled for the next couple of meetings, and if there is anything else that councillors would like to add to that, if you have any discussions we've had today, or just generally make them known to Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and certainly to the CEO. Councillors, any MPI, conflict of interest, personal gifts and benefits? Any of the items today, or anything that we wish to declare? Right, councillors, we're moving right along. Mr. CEO, issues? No, none available. All right, councillors, we can move on to our decision reports. There are none from communities or corporate services.
Oh, sorry, go into that. I just process, I suppose, and then technology. I really like this new way in which we can tap the agendas on our docs and tap, and it goes straight to the page. The other page agenda. I just noticed that for some reason there's no link there for things like the outstanding minute actions or the stuff. Can we just see if we can try and bring it all together? It's getting very, very nice, and it's getting very modern, and it's about where it should be. But there's just a few others that could probably be linked.
Yeah,
I'll see that I can hit the minutes and take them straight in.
Yeah, through the mayor, the links relate to anything that's within the document. There's no reason why we can't look at either including some of those other documents within the one agenda so that we can access it in the same way. But there might be another way you can click on a link and have a link to another document.
So it might be easier.
Yeah. Happy to have a look at it.
Just query means the door open or not?
Thank you, councillor. Just making sure that another prize winners are out there. All good. Right. Councillors, 11.3 custom commercial services relates to the safeguards fees and charges on page 68. And I guess the General Manager, who has now returned after her leave, if you might lead us through that, thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This would appear to me, having read through this report, councillors, it seems to be an administrative error that has occurred in that leaving out the critical word or 2 words per day. So the report before you is just to amend the adopted fees and charges schedule to include within the fee for the spelling of cattle that the fee is actually applied at 55 cents per head per day, inclusive of GST. A recommendation there before you, council, to amend the fees and charges register accordingly.
In the absence of any discussion, councillor making those moves to fix up that small slight error. Second by councillor Daniels, that we obviously adopt the amendment to obviously read as it should. The spelling fee will be 55 cents, including GST per head per day. So moved and second. Councillors, all in favour? Against? Thank you. Right, councillors, the CEO's report there is leading off with the Australian Regional Development Conference. This was, I think, something you can lead us through.
Yes, Mr Mayor, councillors, there's an opportunity for Central Highlands Regional Council to be represented at the upcoming Australian Regional Development Conference. It'll be held at Twin Waters, Maroochydore from the 16th to the 8th of September. Just quoting from an excerpt within the report, This conference is one of the very few that bring academics, practitioners, policy makers, community leaders and Australia's quieter achievers into one purposeful forum. Over the 2 days, participants will gain insight, tools and resources needed to strengthen and advance community. Influential leaders who are invested in the greater regional movement will highlight a variety of innovative achievements, missed opportunities and potential for growth. Some of the keynote speakers, and I read from the report, Paris Aristotle, Gabrielle Chan, Mayor Mark Jemison, as we also know is President of our Local Government Association of Queensland, Mayor Stephen Edgington, Professor John Rolfe and Associate Professor Simon MacArthur. At this stage, the Honourable Michael McCormack, who is the Federal Government Minister for Infrastructure, Transport and Regional Development, and Mr Sanjeev Gupta, Executive Chairman and CEO of the GFG Alliance, have been invited. And as of today, July 23, we don't have a final program, but what's included in the agenda is quite detailed. It outlines the variety of sessions that will be held over those couple of days. Councillors, the cost of attending such a forum is approximately $2,500 per delegate, and the budget we have for the 1920 year would allow for that. The council will be represented at this conference. So over to you, Mr Mayor.
Right, councillors, this came to our attention just recently. It's a conference that obviously, if you go through the, I guess the proposed presentations there, it's got quite a lot of topics and I suppose some parallel comparatives to our region. So if there's any councillors who think there's some data to go into, I'll be pleased to hear. So that is when, Scott, that is your meeting?
It's
16th to 18th September.
The community grants are on the 16th and the LVNG on the 17th.
So pick up our prospective award in Brisbane 2 days earlier and then head up the coast.
There's confidence. Yeah, council, the opportunities there, if there's no one can attend, or it's not mandatory, but I guess if someone wants to go, the opportunities there. All good?
It might be something Mr Mayor would refer to CHDC.
Yeah, we might do that. That's something we can do, yeah. All right, so there's a recommendation there that we want refer the opportunity to attend the ARDC conference. What is it? ARDC conference to the Central Hospital Corporation.
Yeah, for its consideration.
All right, so can we change that recommendation?
Either that or receive a note, either or. Yeah.
I'll move that very circle.
Yeah, I think so. Thanks, Councillor. Nixon has moved that we receive a note of the report. As suggested, we'll contact CHDC the filings of the opportunity as well. They may have already received it. So. All right, Councillor, it's been moved that we note that by Councillor Nixon. Is there a seconder, please? Second by Councillor Sypher. All in favour? Against? Thank you, Councillor. Right, the LGAQ Waste Forum, which is the 29th and 30th of August. Clearly of interest. Thank you, Mr CEO.
Yes, Mr Mayor. Again, an opportunity for council, and this is one that we've been following quite closely as an industry. So I imagine we will be represented at this. Certainly we will be by a staff member. So it's being held at Brisbane from the 29th to the 30th of August. It's hosted by the Local Government Association of Queensland, and some of the topics that will be included on the agenda. And also note that as of today, there hasn't been an agenda finalised, but the advice we've received from LGAQ is that some of the topics will include waste strategy, waste levy and compliance, Queensland waste and resource recovery infrastructure plan, energy from waste, a discussion paper, a session on the importance of waste data, a session on food and garden organics, sustainable procurement, the use of recycled content, and redefining regional priorities and planning or working in collaborative partnerships, just to name a few of the sessions. More economical, Mr Mayor, costs run in at around just under $1,400 per participant. And the budget does support Central Highlands Regional Council being represented by a councillor or two, so yours.
Councillors interested?
Can I just say,
Yes, sorry.
can I just say, councillors, this is the second iteration of the LGAQ Waste Forum that myself, Kirsten and Councillor Grimble attended approximately 12 months ago.
I would like to go, but I'm pre-booked, sorry, I'm in South Australia at the time, so.
I'd like to attend.
Okay, Councillor Daniels has indicated she'd like to attend. I think that is good that some council does attend. Anyone else? Great responsibility. Okay, councillors, we move that obviously we nominate Councillor Daniels. I'm happy to move Councillor Daniels, Councillor Grimble comes second, Councillor Godwin Smith. Councillor Daniels will attend that waste forum on behalf of Central Highlands Regional Council. All in favour? Against? Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Daniels. All right, councillors, we now move to the information part of our agenda, and certainly starting with communities. Daniel Fletcher is going to lead us off on the very first agenda item, which is communications quarterly update. So thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For you, councillors, as the title suggests, this is a quarterly update from the communications team. Appropriately identifying what's been happening across the Q4 from last year, and we'll hear a little bit about some of the hot topics and some of the current things that are keeping the team busy. So I'll pass over to Cara, who's acting coordinator for communications.
Thank you, Daniel. Through you, Mr. Mayor, the Communication and Events team presents its Q4 report for the 2018-19 financial year. Councils, I take the report as read, but we'll just go through some of the statistics and highlights as usual. But before we do, I just want to acknowledge that this is Hayden Thompson's last week with the team here before he heads back home to New South Wales to take up a new position with the Garage Sale Trail in Sydney. I think we can all agree Hayden has been an invaluable asset to council over the last 5 years, and he will be very missed. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to wish him all the very best and thank you for everything that he's done for us. Yeah. So moving on. So Q4, our traditional media. This quarter we had 35 media releases go out and a total of 22 media inquiries. So this is slightly down from our last quarter, but that's most likely due to water restrictions creating a spike in the last quarter. But as you can see from previous quarters, our inquiries are up, which is great. I've also put that at our top news outlets, just for your information, are ABC and CQ News, which is just interesting. Some of the hot topics that came up in the last quarter included the waste levy, extension of water notices, asset management, shades, the new shade structures for the Emerald Botanic Gardens, and also the budget, of course. So this quarter we conducted our first media relations satisfaction survey. So that was sent out to 30 news outlets, and we received a total of 7 responses. So it seems a bit low, but that was to be expected, being our first one that we have conducted. So as you can see, the results were very encouraging for our team. All participants found that our media officers are very helpful with inquiries and above average at meeting deadlines. All participants also identified that Central Highlands is as effective or more effective at media relations than other councils that they deal with. So I think that was really encouraging. And overall respondents are very satisfied or satisfied with the media content that we provide. So some of the suggestions we did get included to maybe add audio and video when we're sending out releases, and to be a little more proactive getting things out as it happens. So one thing that has come out of that is that it's prompted an ongoing fortnightly catch up with Hit FM, which is starting this week. So that's going to be a great opportunity for us to consistently get our news and updates out. And I just want to thank Joan for setting that up, and yeah, I'm hoping we will be able to continue doing that in months to come. So events, we had 3 significant events this quarter. That included Anzac Day, the Phillies and Foals Race Day, and also the shows, and I believe updates have been provided on those. So moving on to social media. So this quarter we put out 79 Facebook posts. So this number has been significantly increasing. but as you might be able to see, our engagement levels have slightly decreased. I think this shows that our audience obviously like quality over quantity, and perhaps we need to be a bit more selective about the content we're putting out. But yeah, still great stats there. So some of the hot topics that came through were the waste levy again, traineeships, the domestic violence march for Domestic Violence Month, water notices extension again, a sewage spill, and the upgrades to the Botanic Gardens. This one here is just people who like our page based on where they are. So it's a slight increase from last quarter, but very similar. And this one's always interesting, just showing people who saw content via page. It's always just interesting to see that our audience is not always from the Highlands. You know, we get people from all over the state and also all over the world. So yeah, that's always interesting and could be useful for recruitment messaging and that to know that a good portion of our audience is in Brisbane or Rockhampton. So this quarter was really exciting for our e-news bulletin. We reached 1,000 subscribers, which was a very significant milestone. And as you can see, our numbers have steadily increased over the last year. Also, the recent communication satisfaction survey found that email is the preferred method of communication, so that really comes as no surprise. And we'll be continuing to push for increase in those numbers. So moving on to our website. On the website, people still love jobs, lost pets, and the airport pages are most popular. And our page views and users are continuing to build from last year. So some of the most popular news stories in April are the waste levy and desexing, May, the Botanic Gardens again, and National Reconciliation Week, and in June, the budget and also the game plan being an award finalist. So for live streaming, all of our council meetings have been streamed for the quarter. The most number of viewers was in June. This is probably because we had our special budget meeting in June as well. So the intranet is doing really well. Users are up again this quarter and we've received more comments. So it's great to see people are really engaging with the site and taking ownership of it. Some of the hot topics for there, farewells are always really popular, and new starters, anything about the uniform, Christmas party update. So yeah, there's some great stuff going up there. And finally, as I believe we reported last quarterly report, we've introduced a service desk with our comms team. So to date, we've received 609 service request tickets and 560 have been resolved. So that's around a 90% completion rate, which I think is really great to see. Ticket numbers are slightly down this quarter, but I think that can be attributed to a better understanding of staff on how to use the system and what to raise tickets for. Website and intranet were once again the highest requested items, and that was followed by communications and media and social media. So yeah, that's pretty much a wrap up of us for the last quarter. If you had any questions, feel free.
That's great, Cara. Thank you very much. Very comprehensive. Councillors, any questions?
How does the budget Q4 thing work?
What, sorry?
The Q4 budget pie chart you've got there, how does that work? What's that mean?
That comes from the accounting team, so it would be more of a question for them on how they calculate it.
Just looking at the percentage, I think, Cara.
Oh, okay.
You've got about 300% there. I don't know how much your budget is going to be.
Maybe we all went in on that pie.
Yeah, I think that might be of each of those budgets, not to add up as total, perhaps. I can find out for you.
It'll make a good,
Just some reset.
it'll make a good story rather than fun. Councillors, any questions? It's very interesting to see the live stream is obviously that quarter increasing, so it's not just Ron.
It was about 70 for the budget meeting.
There you go. That's excellent. Thanks, mate.
Great to see.
Okay. All right. Councillors, if there's no questions, I guess, Hayden, in a more formal setting here, I mean, I know we had lunch with you today, and tomorrow all our colleagues are going to get the opportunity to say goodbye to you with your morning tea, but I guess this is, might be the opportunity to want to say a few words with council.
You are, yeah.
Or not.
Well, I didn't really have anything prepared, Mr. Mayor, but enjoyed my time up here in the Highlands. I didn't know one single person that lived here when I arrived 5 years ago, and now I'm sad kind of dragging my feet as I leave the place. So I guess that's due to the welcoming environment up here. It felt like I had a family, even though my family's far, 2,000 kilometres away. I'm excited about my new adventure with the Garage Sale Trail, and I guess I caught their attention with my work on the program here, which the council has backed all of my crazy endeavours. Yeah, so thank you for your support in that. Hopefully we can keep making a successful event here in the Highlands. I'll be on the other side of the desk, but I'll be mentoring Nicole. She takes over the program.
Thanks, Hayden, and appreciate those kind words, and certainly as we said it last time today, once you are part of our family, you're always welcome to come home, and we want you to do that when you get the opportunity, so you can always come back, Hayden. But look, to formally recognise your contributions, certainly your communications team has been a wonderful contributor in a sensationally young team that provide those sort of statistics for the organisation and deliver them very effectively and in a very forthright way. And we really appreciate your contribution to that team. So thank you to you personally. I know that's one blue that's going to go back over the border, and you'll get your passport stamped. But look, thank you very much for all your service to the Central Highlands Police. I know people appreciate it very much, and we will miss you. Thank you.
And I guess, Mr. Mayor, just make sure you don't forget that blow-up blue doll out the back there, that massive.
Don't worry, I'll be here for morning tea tomorrow.
Supporter.
Great
Yeah, you
bird.
take that one back with you, yeah.
Yeah, I'll take it with the shield that I'm taking back.
The shield, yeah, it's very pleasure having you in the boardroom, and thank you for all your support that you've given all of us into this organisation, and we'll really miss you. I'll miss you on the golf course too, but it's been fun. Thank you.
And Hayden, through the Mayor, Council, on behalf of the senior staff, I look forward to saying a few words tomorrow, but I'd just like to thank you for your contribution over the years, and you've really got it all going on. You're going to get close to family, you're pursuing your career, and I know your heart really is in that Garage Sale Trail project, and I think you'll do wonderful things in transforming that product as well. And you go with accolades from us. You've got this place in a better position from a communications team perspective than when you joined it, and you're going on to do exciting things. I've got a question you might be able to answer tomorrow, and you did start with BMW, and now I hear that there's Testiva, so I don't know whether that's an improvement or not.
There is a story.
I'll be able to elaborate on that tomorrow. But no, on behalf of myself and the executive leadership team and the organisation, we wish you well, mate, and thank you for all your past contributions.
Thanks, mate. Right, thank you, Tony. Thank you, Cara. Thanks, Hayden.
You're going to get out the door now, Hayden?
Councillors, we now move on to item 13.2.1, which is under our corporate services department, certainly a monthly finance report. Mr. CEO, you might do that in a little Margaret.
Yeah, more than happy to do that, Mr. Mayor. We can do that if you want.
While they're coming down, councillors, just draw your attention to the fact that we do need to receive that communications report that we received and we received the report. Someone had to move that. Moved by Councillor Dalton Smith, second by Councillor Brimblecombe. All in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors.
Now, I'd like to just acknowledge Gat's apology, and probably remiss of us to not do that earlier when we were speaking about the Queensland Training Awards, but Margaret can't be here with us today, but she's left us in the hands of the finance team. I'll now hand over to the ladies to take us through the June report.
Thank you, Scott. Through the chair, good afternoon, councillors. In regard to our interim statement of comprehensive income for the period ending the 30th of June, we have an operating surplus of 3.5 million, and we're comparing this to our forecasted budget deficit of 3.8 3 million for the same period. We have an underspend at the moment of 6.84 million. In terms of our operating revenue streams, we are 187,000 above budget, and before interest and depreciation, we are 5.6 million below budget for our operating expenditure.
Just get you a little bit out together.
The report shows that the underspend comes from a range of activities across council. However, with invoices for goods and services relating to the 18-19 financial year still to be processed, there will be further accrued expenses recognised. As at the end of June, our interim financial position and statement of cash flows show that we are in a sound position with cash totaling 122.9 million. The interim balance sheet shows a cash position higher than estimated primarily due to the level of capital works not completed within the financial year. Surplus cash funds are invested to provide a return to council with either QTC or held in fixed term deposits with NAB, Westpac and Capricornian. Interest earned on investments for the month of June is 254,000 and year-to-date interest earned is 3.6 million against a revised budget forecast of 3 million. At the end of June, our outstanding debt are valued 2.6 million. Of this amount, 78.29% are current debts valuing 2 million, with debts over 90 days contributing only 0.82% of total outstanding debtors with a value of 21,000. Our total outstanding rates and water arrears at the end of June totaled approximately 3.5 million and is represented by 931 assessments. In relation to our procurement activities, our total local spend was 6.2 million, which represented 37% of total spend in June. And 68% of that total local spend were purchase orders with a value under $1,000. In relation to capital, capital expenditure for the period ending 30th June is 70.7 million against a proposed budget at the R3 of 85.3 million. As explained with the operating position, the final capital expenditure figure will rise with end of financial year adjustments. At the end of June, 23 of the 28 Work for Queensland projects have been completed. An application had been submitted requesting an extension of time to complete 4 of those remaining projects and an application to withdraw 1. Council has recently received confirmation that extension of time has been granted for all 4 projects, and it is anticipated that the 3 town interest statement projects will be complete by the end of July, with the community over Ralston upgrade project completed by the 16th of September. The June monthly finance report has been based on interim results pending finalisation of year-end accounting adjustments and accruals. Detailed analysis of financial performance will be reported to Council upon completion of the annual report and audit of Council's financial statements. Thank you. Any questions in relation to the report?
Julie, I just have a couple of questions, and they're only probably procedural, but we probably had a bit of a speculation about what the end of year performance was going to be like and projections going forward. Are there a few variables there that are up in the air a little bit, or is there just a couple of things that have made that a little bit problematic? I guess in the forecasting, I mean, we were a little bit under, then it was over, and then we've got, I can see some of the variations, but I mean, in terms of the things that are just bothering me a little bit is the projections of those, and then the cash position where we are a little more, I guess you'd say, exact with our calculations.
Thank you, Lisa. To answer your question, I guess there has been the estimations that the managers have put forward. There has been unexpected delays that they hadn't foreseen. So some of that expenditure, some of that is detailed in the report as to.
So obviously, again, a part payment of their FAGs payment is obviously always has that effect on the bottom line. I understand that. Yeah. It's just the the cash position and projections, because, you know, it is an important part of the ratios, and I guess you'd say our overall position. And I guess at the time, it's not that I don't understand that there can be some vagaries, but it just seems to be we're just unsure exactly how that's tracking. And a lot of times we're actually advised that that is going to reduce, and I know that, but it doesn't seem to reduce a lot sometimes. It seems to manage to hang up there. And I'm sure one day we'll come in here and we'll be, it's just not, I just wonder about that projection and perhaps a little more information about what potentially is going to reduce that over the coming period.
I think, through discussions with the managers, I think they do estimate that they think they are going to expend that expenditure, but there has been some, with the estimation, with unexpected events, things taking longer to procure, and some projects haven't started as early as they had projected.
Can I just ask, we don't have a hard close date for previous years. I mean, when do we stop last year's expenditure stuff happening? I mean, you know, it's a long time after the event, really, in accounting terms, but when do we sort of stop?
So through the chair, councillor, the final statements are due on the 26th of August, so we do have time between then to make adjustments, but the final statement should be due, completed by the 28th of August. Then we have auditors coming in for a period of 2 weeks, where they will go through the statements, and then there could be some further adjustments to that position from the 26th of August. And I'll let Helen answer the question as well. But the sign off on the statements are on the 2nd of October.
More about accruals, I think.
Yeah.
Just through the chair, Councillor Bell, yes, we do have a date to close off our accruals, and that's actually this Friday.
Well, we'll do it now, because you've got to give stuff to accountants and auditors and stuff.
Exactly. You know, there's still adjustments to be processed through the operating statement for the provisions, the employee provisions, the rehabilitation provisions. But I suppose particularly at the end of the year, you know, we do leave that accrual process to run much longer to ensure that we have accrued back all the, you know, relevant income and expenditure that relates to that financial year. I mean, ideally we would like to close off earlier, so we get a handle on the final balance much earlier, but it's towards the end of July that we do close off.
Okay. Yep. And just in addition, through the Mayor, and another way of answering that cash question, we'll be able to provide the councillors just 3 docs on tap on a one page, those high-level long-term financial parameters, so that councillors can see exactly what's happening over the next 10 years. We used and relied upon that information and formulated a budget, but now that we've locked the budget in for 1920, if we could just reissue what that picture looks like for the next 10 years, because that's something that should always be in the front of the councillor's mind.
Through the chair, we will do that, but of course keep in mind that will change once the actuals
That's right.
locked in. But we can provide it as it now.
Just at the budget.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
I think we had this conversation today, Helen, around just the fact that, you know, budgeting seems to be more, you know, baseline around 3-year projections and 5-year projections rather than just an annualised number. And gee, what did we end up at? It's more, you know, this is a trend or what we're trying to achieve. I think, you know, the strategies about those sort of things, and if we can have that reporting, and I respect the fact that, you know, when we get some, you know, solidarity in these, it'll make the projections easier. I understand that. So, but yeah, that's the thinking there. So, any other questions, councillors?
I just think it's just that untidy in that, you know, when we put our budget down in June, we did very much have a budget summary and, you know, reports that sort of said we were going to make a loss of 3.1 million on an expected surplus of 0.49, which was budgeted, and now we're sort of saying we're going to make 3.something million profit. So it's yeah, it's not good. Doesn't sit well. The other one is just to let you know that your grants might slip a little bit. The federal government's taken some fallback on last year's payments, so this year's amount they've given us, so we hope we'll sort that out for you Monday next week. For a meeting.
Good, thank you, Councillor Bell. So, yeah, and that's they're the sort of things that have a reportable, I guess you'd say, reputation and value, I guess, in terms of that final statement. As I said, we certainly drafted our budget, I guess documents based on the fact that we were going to have to say to the community that we've run an operational loss last year, which, turns out to be different. I understand that the vagaries of that, but certainly, they're the sorts of things, I guess, that probably have a bit of value for our community with them, right? So, thank you, Councillor.
Just one last question on the federal assistance grants. We hadn't budgeted to receive them in June, had we?
Just through the chair, at BR3 we haven't factored that in, but in our estimated position for the budget, our closing position, we did actually factor that in.
And was that around the right amount of money?
Roughly, yeah.
Was it a little bit up?
About, yeah, I think we received about 4.9.
Yeah.
Right.
Seems to be the trend now.
And that's what it might be, just that last month, that last 6 weeks is a bit problematic in terms of actually landing on something that's a projection, probably for those budget papers, whereas the actuals turn out, 6 weeks after the end of the financial year. It can be different. We're talking about 12 months, 12 weeks. So a lot can change, but I guess, I suppose the takeout is, we need to smooth that out if we can, where we can. Any other questions, councillors? All right. Well, thank you, Julie. Thank you, Helen. The recommendation is there that we receive that monthly financial report. Move that. Moved by Councillor Nixon, second Councillor Brittlecombe. All in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors. Carried. All right, councillors, the infrastructure and utilities. I know Kim Downing has been dying to get into a position of presenting something today. Obviously, is Peter here? He's not. So, Kim might speak to this report. Thank you, Kim.
Through the chair, good afternoon, councillors. This report, the intent of the report is just to give you an update on where the water security plan is at and how it's progressing. So council did engage a consultant in April, and through the consultant working with Peter, have prepared a project plan that's summarised in the table there. So just the highlights includes that, in particular, the stakeholder engagement, review of drought management plans, reports to council, and then a final report. Just actions then as part of that plan. Initial meeting was held with DNRME and with Sunwater, and that's just laying the groundwork. Progress report to council on incomes of considering access to low-level storage is planned for early October. And then the, excuse me, remaining inputs are scheduled to follow the milestones of the plan through October and November, with more workshops planned for council during that period. Final updated plan is scheduled for completion in December 2019.
Through the chair.
Councillor, I don't think that's really fast enough, is it?
No, I was just about to.
We are going to be in a situation with no rainfall in September, where we would arguably be almost back to where we were in February. So the idea of that review was to obviously have at least the trigger levels and the scheduling in our policy to match, I guess you'd say, some of the work that was done before that. So I'm just a little bit concerned about, and Councillor Dennis, sorry if I jumped in there, but
No, it's exactly
the reality is this wasn't to extend to the end of the year. This should be done by October, and councillors have said to me that they want to be able to start messaging to our community before then. Is that the general consensus?
Yeah, this, even before October, I would have been.
So I think that we're going to, I don't know how much that's locked in, but that's not acceptable. It can't be because we, in terms of risk, we're at 80% now, and on the basis of expectation by end of September, the projections would be that we would be back into the levels that were talked about in February, and we needed to have, I guess you'd say, councillors, certainly on just on the very simple alternate days and the levels and the trigger levels, had given a clear indication of the sorts of variations they wanted. So that part should have been fairly simplistic. It was just, and I would have thought that possibly that could have been done by now. But
we'll take a look, another look at Mr. Mayor, we'll bring it forward. I just wouldn't be prudent for me to commit to having that finalised, you know, without knowing exactly what's involved. We'll certainly compress the timeframes, but it's hard to just automatically bring that December date back to say we'll have that done by August or September unless we have a look at exactly what's involved. But we get the message.
yeah, well, I'm just, I guess, disappointed because I think the message was that it needed to be done by October. So I don't know why it's extended. I have no idea.
And I can go back and have a look at the full set out program and see what timeframes are related through all those. So looking at it, just at the level there is 5 months of stakeholder engagement. So maybe that's where the reduction occurs. Review current drought management plan.
Well, I think what I'm concerned about, I'm just concerned about the scope here. The scope is to notwithstanding the mechanics of the water supply and where it's coming from, it's about, and this wasn't just to extend to the river users and certainly the license, the allocation users, it's about all the trigger levels and points of the uniformity, and that was to be sort of, I guess you'd say, reviewed fairly quickly. So the stakeholders are in fact us, and our commitment and engagement and communication to our ratepayers. So I would have thought that could have been done reasonably quickly. There wasn't a huge variation quite in there. The background information that perhaps that I'm only assuming that Peter's gone to detail that in terms of engagement. Operational, I guess you'd say, activity behind that, but this was about forward-facing measurements and trigger levels. So can we just clarify that? We will. Yeah. No, councillors, is there anyone that has a...
You're on the right track, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, the level of urgency is far greater than what's indicated in the
Absolutely. Yeah. So
I think we're really mindful of other councils in Queensland at the moment that are really looking at some really dire situations, and we don't want to be in a situation where we haven't got that planning, that preparation and messaging organised before October.
It's only 18.78% now.
We'll have projections every quarter about, obviously the probability of rainfall and
And Mr. Mayor, every forecast, and as recently as today that I've listened to, it's not looking very promising. In terms of moisture levels going forward, so I think it's very responsible work for us to undertake.
Right. Well, council, I think that's the message. This is urgent and requires something to happen as soon as possible. What do we want to do with that resolution, Mr. CEO? There,
definitely amend it and put some clearer dates on it, because it was fairly clear, although we didn't put dates on it last time, it was fairly clear that it had a high level of urgency surrounding it. But is the word even more a security plan? Is that what we're calling what we're asking?
I don't think it has a name, to be quite frank. I think it might be the terminology that Peter's using to determine the project, but that'll be something that we'll actually have to.
I think the drought one is the one that's really, urgent. If we get that separate even and then put it into the other water security program.
We want to just know this.
Yeah, we can reset, well, recall council sentiments there, Mr Mayor, I think.
Yeah, I think
That CHRC requested the CEO to prioritise this body of work and provide council with a compressed timeframe for its completion, something along those lines.
there's a matter of urgency, all of that.
That too. Add that in there, and we can shuffle our agendas around workshops and strategies that are upcoming to accommodate. To urgently prioritise this body of work and reissue a suitable timeframe for its completion, something along those lines. Reissue. Reissue and reissue.
Timeframe equal to a trigger level.
Change appropriately expedited it at a memory that probably gets not to expedited expedited.
The St Albans Regional Cabinet requests the CEO urgently prioritise body work and reissue and expedited
timetable.
well, you've got to get rid of the end, have you? Well, yeah, expedited, yeah, there you go, done. Yeah, okay. Someone going to move that? Moved by Councillor Nixon, second Councillor Grimmelton, all in favour? Against? Thank you, Councillor. Okay, thank you, Kim. Item 13.5.1, which is the department level.
I guess it's too late.
Sorry, no, it's not too late.
To the actual resolution that we'll just pass. Just reissue an expedited timetable. It's only saying that the timetable is going to be urgent.
No, well, that's not, sorry, through the mayor, it's saying that council's saying requesting the CEO to urgently prioritise this body of work. So that is the drought management plan, water security plan, and reissue an expedited timetable for its completion. So the directive is get on with it, it's important, and as a demonstration of that, show us some evidence that you've got a time frame that matches that level of urgency. The wording's not perfect, it's on the fly, but I believe it captures the sentiment of council.
Probably we should have put it in the original one. All right, councillors, 13.5.1 is the CEO's departmental update, and that starts off with the Regional Operation Development Forum development, some reports there. So I'll leave CEO Scott to go through those.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. Councillors, start with there's 4 reports there. We'll start with the Regional Cooperation and Development Forum, which was held at Canberra on the 16th of June, and council was represented by its Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and personal assistant to the Mayor and councillors, that's Marnie Wills and myself. And for council's knowledge, it was part of Marnie's learning and development plan for her to attend this event. So Marnie would normally attend these sorts of conferences and events, but as part of that development plan, training plan, that was identified as a fitting inclusion, and I believe she got a lot out of the experience. I'd just like to take you through this day. There's a lot of information imparted on this day, and what I've sought to do in this table is just capture, I guess, the key points from each speaker. And you may or may not have had a chance to read this, but I'll go through and pull out the main points, of which there's a few. So starting with Dr. Kim Portman, who's the co-CEO for the Regional Australia Institute. Key points are that it's a myth that populations are declining across regional Australia. He makes the distinction that it's the remote places, they're the ones that tend to be losing residents, and that impacts around 40 councils in Australia. There's an outflow from greater capital cities to regional places. For example, Sydney is losing approximately 20,000 people per year. However, Brisbane is more balanced, while Melbourne's net gain is approximately only 5,000 per year. The nature of work is evolving. There's a growth in technical and professional services and vulnerability for traditional roles. Regional vacancies are growing faster than metro vacancies. Examples include the Pilbara, the Goldfields, Southwest Western Australia, Riverina, Hobart, Launceston, Outback Queensland and Outback Queensland. And we certainly, that theme came through when we had representatives from the Western Queensland Local Government Association annual conference. And in some places, unemployment is rising. For example, Riverina in Southwest WA, and population is falling. Example, Goldfields, Pilbara and Outback Queensland, which is a very scary mix. Traditional economic measures, i.e. fiscal and monetary policy, will not be effective in turning our sluggish economy, according to Dr. Horton. The long-term solution is wages growth and improved livability. He believes a new approach is required. Investing in social infrastructure is one way of achieving that new approach, as is governments and regions working together. Empowering regions through flexibility and place-based policies and shifting the narrative to regional Australia, and that's where local leadership plays an important role. We need to act locally, bring the business community with us, tidy up behind the front counter, and that was a term used to really get your own house in order, your own backyard in order. Local learning systems are important to get young people into jobs and staying informed. And Dr. Horton referred to this competitiveness index, and the Regional Australia Institute produced a vacancy map, an internet vacancy map, that shows the competitiveness of regions. And there's a link there for further information if you want to have a look at that. I do note there that Dr. Horton would be a great guest speaker for upcoming CHRC or CHDC event. I did take the liberty of informing the RAI of our nomination for the upcoming Queensland Training Awards category, which we heard earlier today of our success. More so to explain in that detailed nomination what it is that CHRC is doing to try and challenge some of these trends that he was speaking of. And this was an interesting session because a lot of what Dr. Horton was preaching are things that Central Highlands Regional Council has been working on for some time. And we'll follow up now and appraise the RAI of that as it comes through the Queensland Training Awards. I think they'll be most interested and might even pick up CHRC as a case study. Moving on to Natalie Eggleton. Natalie is the CEO for Foundation for Rural and Regional Renewal, which I'll refer to as FRRR. So this organisation sees itself as a philanthropic toothbrush, taking philanthropy to the hard-to-reach places. It was established almost 20 years ago to champion the economic and social strength of Australia's regional, rural and remote communities. This session is important for councillors to be aware of because you might be able to help out some of our smaller organisations that are chasing financial support. So since formation, they've distributed more than $85 million in grants to support more than 9,500 community projects in approximately 1,500 communities. Their focus is on small rural communities that have less than 15,000 people, and they're able to leverage finances considerably. Their ratio is 3 to 1, and that's pretty impressive. They provide grants to not-for-profit community organisations, and they help the DGR is deductible gift recipient not-for-profits to fundraise by partnering to attract donations and grants for an agreed purpose. They help to build local capacity to find local solutions to local problems. And I did take the liberty of suggesting that we mentioned the CHDC, our economic development agent, that it would be useful to engage FRRR to conduct these grant seeker workshops in our in communities like Spring Sharamble, Blackwater, Ralston and Jaringa. If they're prepared to do those workshops, and that might be a way of getting the news out about that potential funding source.
Just through the chair, just while you're speaking about that particular organisation, I thought it might be an opportune time to say that the Central Highlands Science Centre just received nearly $19,000 to do the feasibility study into the potential of tourism for the Science Centre in conjunction with the Arts Precinct. So they've given us $19,000 to progress that feasibility study. So they are a marvellous organisation.
Thank you, Councillor Slifer, and congratulations on achieving that. Thank you.
And it might be that it's not, CHDC may or may not respond to those suggestions, but it could even be that the council hosts an FRRR speaker at one of the community reference group meetings. If that was a way of not calling the community together an extra time, there might be another vehicle or an opportunity that they could.
So the grants workshop is running here on the 30th of this month, the grants workshop. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Oh, that's good. So
Yeah.
it's all happening.
It is all happening.
Excellent. All right, well, with that, I might just jump over to Peter Brain and a few of his key points. And for councillors, I do encourage you to have a look at the State of the Regions report. Someone has, because the hard copy is missing from the councillors' room. Now, that could be anyone borrowing it. But if you have a look on Docs on tab under ALGA, the Australian Local Government Association, you will be able to find a copy of that report. And it's too big to read the whole thing, and you don't need to. There's certainly a section on our geographic area. But what I encourage councillors to do is have a look at what they refer to as the stylised facts, which appear at the start of the report. There's also an executive summary. If you just have a look at what those 19 trends are in Australia, a quick perusal of the executive summary, you'll get a feel for what's happening. Not that you don't already know, but it's just a way of consolidating what you know with what the latest learnings are through the ALGA experiences. Dr. Brain points out the growing inequality between metro and remote / out-of-line regions. He cites an oversupply of out-of-suburban labour. There's a need to boost regional economic productivity, and he believes a practical manner to address this is to provide employment for the husband and wife in communities. He also spoke of the chronic balance of payments deficit and the need to consider our export performance as a nation, and pointed delegates to the Productivity Commission's initial report into transitioning regional economies. And I hope that those hyperlinks work, you'll be able to access that. If not, just searching on those keywords, you'll be able to find that report. Jumping down to Margaret Simons, and I'll be brief over the journalism section because it's aptly titled public interest journalism, but there was a little bit of private interest in marketing some of these services, not so much with Margaret. She states that there's some good things to be done by councils, notably Bundaberg Regional Council. They have taken the initiative to promote positive news for their region, and if you haven't had a chance, have a look at it. They did this deliberately as a low-cost initiative to try and get some relevant news out to the public because they weren't able to get it through the Bundaberg Newsmail, which is the local paper in that region. And to date, it seems as though it's been a very significant, a very successful venture. Margaret talks about the crisis in the business model for the generation of news and then sponsorship and advertising, or lack thereof, fragmentation, and social media engines. Local news is suffering the most. Approximately 3,000 journalists have lost their jobs in the last 5 years. Local council news largely goes unreported. Radio is very important to regional and remote areas. And I just note here that Cara Parodies in our comms team is following up on the possibility of taking out some paid editorial content on a regular basis for the CQ News, just to see whether or not we can leverage a reasonable deal there as a way of getting objective, not necessarily positive, but just objective and factual news out to some of our people that choose to buy the newspaper or look at the CQ News via Facebook site. Jumping down to Genevieve Jacobs, and I'll jump over her because I really thought that was a little bit of marketing for her business. Moving down to Ben Taylor. Ben encouraged councils to foster a productive relationship with their local newspapers. The digital model for small local newspapers, in his view, does not stack up because there's not enough advertising revenue. He suggested that governments should subsidise or provide tax concessions to support local media, and he suggested that councils pay for editorial content to explain why decisions were made. So going into another level of detail to provide information to our community members. And that's not a new suggestion, that's been around for a long time. In fact, many councils do that regularly. John Martin, his presentation was all about housing strategies. He was really preaching to convert it because Central Highlands Regional Council's been proactive in that space for quite some time. But he noted that many councils don't have a housing strategy. Councils have the flexibility to establish whatever relevant housing policies they need. The Sunshine Coast Regional Council was identified as a good example, as was the wider council, which was used further on during the day. Jessica Porter, PhD scholar, mentioned that housing affordability is an issue, and this 30-40 rule of thumb is simply that housing is deemed to be affordable when a low-income household pays no more than 30% of its gross household income on housing costs. If it's over that, well, then it's unaffordable, and the council should be stepping into that space, or has the ability to step into that space to provide better market outcomes. So she believes that there is a crisis in non-metro Australia. There's a rental affordability index which you can access to see where we sit with each of our communities in the Central Highlands against other communities if you're interested in looking at them. And her advice is that we should stop comparing regional areas to metro areas. They're very different. Her advice was also that we should know our housing market. What are the community's needs? What are the gaps? What are the future needs? Max Eastcott, a practitioner, general manager, which is a CEO equivalent at Wider Shire Council, provided his views. Obviously, they're one of the councils like ourselves that have taken an active stance in this area. He says there's a real opportunity for the 3 tiers, it should say, there's a typo there, as in the first dot point, it should say exist. But there's a real opportunity for the 3 tiers of government to cooperate to address the problem of affordable housing. Move on to technology in regional Australia. This session too, there was a marketing element to it, but seeing beyond that, there was still some important messages. Starting with Sam Kennedy, she noted that 69% of Australia has no mobile coverage. However, satellite technology is and can be a viable solution. And the text in red, the facilitator asked each speaker what do they consider to be the next challenge or advice for the future, i.e. 10 to 15 years. And her comment was to build out more open networks and being able to seamlessly move from cellular to satellite to wireless with one mobile number. And she notes that you need to have really good partnerships to achieve that outcome. But 10 to 15 years, at the rate at which the world and Australia is advancing, it's obvious that a lot can be achieved. Moving down to Christina Kershaw. She's the CEO from Stirling Coast Farmers Incorporated. Her key points were to cooperate and collaborate to achieve a greater impact, particularly in the area of competing with export product on an international level. So their particular business case, if you have a look at the link, is about bringing farmers together to market product to leverage better outcomes for all suppliers, all producers. So 90% of the project, the product in this group, Stirling Coast Farmers, is exported. Technology-driven supply chains are critical for real-time, on-farm decision-making. They've basically built a mobile data network with Pivotal, or they're in the process of doing that. They'll have 50 smart farms, they dub them smart farms, connected by the end of this year. Automation outcomes by many of those farms are what is sought, and it will enable virtual fencing. Moving down to Andrew Howie. This guy was very interesting actually, and you wouldn't know from my notes, but he was engaging enough that I didn't take that many notes. But he was able to provide some incredible stories about the Christchurch post-disaster context, and it was quite amazing. And he probably should have been given more time, but had to crack them off, unfortunately. That he was basically saying that he believes the next challenge and advice for the future, i.e. 10 to 15 years, is constructing repeater sites and partnering with service providers to co-locate equipment and expand rural broadband coverage, thereby enhancing disaster resilience in communities. So, and that's quite a worthy goal when you consider it. I'll move over to the chair of the Broadband for the Bush Alliance, and the key points there were there's a lot of consumer angst, particularly around things like affordability, speed, fault rectification and reliability. She noted that there's $160 million available for 2 rounds of the mobile black spot program, and when at the time of writing the report, those applications are due by the end of the week. That round 5 has since been extended to the 26th of September 2019, and I note that we were going to have a look at what our priority projects are and just make sure we settle on the key ones to submit applications on behalf of our South Charter Sea communities. There's $60 million available in the regional connectivity program to improve people that are serviced by Sky Muster. There might be some within our regional council area. There you go. Significant barriers exist in Indigenous communities. The Broadband for the Bush Alliance is advocating for digital inclusion to becoming a closing the gap initiative. And her advice for the future was that we need a real rural telecommunications investment strategy, and we need to collaborate and partner at the local level. It was a good presentation. I think that highlights a lot of the gaps in Australia. Next was the Australian Mobile Telecommunications Association, and this will complete that section on technology in regional Australia. A few points. There's 10 million more mobile devices in Australia than there is people. Data usage is soaring. 92% of data downloaded is via fixed line broadband, with 8% via mobile devices, and that will increase that 8% component. The telecommunications ecosystem is converging. That's wireless, mixed Wi-Fi, satellite. It's being mapped together. He spoke of this Industry 4.0, Australia's 4th industrial revolution, which is the combination of data, networks and AI, which will result in social transformation. And that will pervasively connect communities. There's a 65 billion uplift in productivity benefits will be achieved by 2023. And 4G, 5G is a key driver across industries. It will enable greater capacity and limited latency, which is necessary to support the driverless technology that we'll talk about in the future. And his advice or next challenge for the future is network slicing and bravely leveraging partnerships. On a lighter note, tourism was the next section, and there's 2 photos there of the same person, and that was a larger-than-life character, Ken Heath, who's the Mayor of Parkshire Council, and Parks started out on a journey 12 years ago with an event which is now called the Parks Elvis Festival, but 12 years ago it started out with 200 people attending the first event, but it just shows what you can achieve with persistence and dedication, and of course the support from your local council. Now this event attracts more than 26,000 visitors, including international visitors, and provides, you can imagine, an incredible economic benefit to the Parks region. And now they have a pressure point that they're having to deal with, but like a couple of these other case studies, being successful is worth some of the challenges that come with it, and they'll work through some of those pinch points. And one is the staff. The timing of this event conflicts with the traditional time that people want to take leave, and they need additional staff to be on hand to service the many visitors that come to Parks. Moving to Queensland now, and Tony Wellington was able to describe some of the growing pains that Noosa is experiencing. As we know, a lot of Queenslanders flock to Noosa, not just Queenslanders, but flock to Noosa, and they're struggling with the amount of tourism that they're attracting. One stat here is that tourism has been growth by overnight visitors. This is growth. Is 60% compared to a modest 2.3% per day trip. Well, that's probably obvious when you've got to factor in the cost of accommodation. They're trying to balance visitor growth and access to sites by local residents. So you can imagine you live there, you're a local, you want to access some of those natural environmental assets, and you can't because of the visitors have taken over, so they're trying to balance that. The SEQ is projected to grow by nearly 2 million people by 2041. Neighbouring Sunshine Coast is projected to grow by almost 200,000 by 2041. That's interesting because the Mayor and I represented Council recently at the LGAQ Regional Assembly of Councils, and 300,000 was a figure that was offered by Sunshine Coast. There's a fairly large discrepancy, but whether it's 200,000 or 300,000 in 20 years, it's still a huge number, a huge amount of increase. Noosa is struggling with too many events and too many road closures. Mentioned there the Noosa Triathlon and the Food and Wine Festival, but there's many others that require road closures, and that's impacting on locals and tourists, or more so locals. 41% of the properties in the inner circle are short-term rentals, like Airbnb. They formed a Sustainable Tourism Stakeholder Reference Group. You'll be interested in this. They've made a joint declaration, and acceptable limits will be established for key areas. This is tourism limits. Levers to control visitation are being considered. Transport, Hastings Street parking, which is obviously there's not enough of, and the attitude to being a living laboratory are some of the principles that this stakeholder reference group are embracing as they try and address this problem. So that they know they can't solve it straight away, but they'll try things, and that reference to it being a living laboratory is quite interesting. But the important thing is the council is on board to want to do things differently to get a better outcome for visitors and locals. And efforts to broaden the local economy to reduce the reliance on tourism are also being considered. Now moving to culture and the arts, and this is quite interesting. I think you'll be pleasantly shocked by some of these stats. Kate Fielding was the presenter, and she comes from a group called A New Approach, and that's an independent think tank championing effective investment and return in Australian arts and culture. And there's a link there, you can find out a bit more about it. But this is this. Understanding the scale and relevance of cultural and creative industries in Australia is important. It contributes over $1 billion per year to Australia's GDP and employs 5.5% of the nation's workforce. And further, there's a growing role for local government to contribute to the cultural life of Australia. Local government is currently contributing 27% of the spend, state and territory governments 33%, with the Australian government being 40%. And her viewpoint here is that given this extensive contribution by local government, there exists an opportunity to be more assertive in influencing future resourcing decisions. Something to think about. The Hardwalk project was referenced as a standout project. This is in the Kalgoorlie CBD area. It achieved significant outcomes. Most importantly, it inspired people to dream big. And if you get the opportunity to have a look at that link, it's well worth it. Some of you are probably already familiar with the project, it's quite amazing. Moving down to a case study, Swan Hill Rural City Council represented by John McClendon. This is probably one of the best case studies, and John was able to put the Rural City Council into perspective with some of the big producers and businesses in that area by saying that his council turnover is 55 million per year, and by comparison, many private farms would dwarf the council's budget. So by not only turnover, but by number of employees. So they're a small player in a very rich area of Australia. So Swan Hill produces 25% of Australia's carrots, 98% of processes, 98% of pistachios, and a significant share of the bag salad market, and 60 to 70% of almonds, and many other products as well. Too many stats to take down notes on. They banded together with 6 other councils to put forward a regional growth fund application across 16 townships valued at 17 million. 17 million in committed council funding to offset that growth fund application. The Swan Hill project is a $12 million multi-purpose facility. This is an art gallery and a visitor information centre to be built on the banks of the Murray River. And John was able to talk about some of the financial challenges that Swan Hill Rural City Council had, and noting that the Pioneer Settlement, you can see there they receive 45,000 visitors a year, the Heartbeat Laser Show 18,000 visitors, and the paddle steamer kayak 17,500 visitors. What he was trying to convey was that there's too many visitors there to not meet the financial pressure of maintaining those assets, and two in particular, Pioneer Settlement and the paddle steamer, bottomless pits when it comes to maintaining those assets, and that was a fiscal struggle for them. And you can then see the dot point above, by building a multi-purpose facility, they could probably get off the cycle of having to continue to invest in older assets that will inevitably become, completely depleted in the future. And we end with the new Minister, Mark Colton, speaking to delegates, and he was very excited about his portfolio mix and clarified that regional services includes education, telecommunications and health. Very supportive of the advancement in ag technology. He also has a role of being an assistant to the Trade Minister and keen to look at all opportunities for regional Australia to enhance and grow regional centres, and interested in taking up the skills shortages in regional areas and relocating centralised government staff to appropriate regions. We might close off there, Mr Mayor, but yeah, that was and obviously we had the Mayor and Deputy Mayor and Marnie who also attended, but I think that was the most worthwhile forum to be part of. Happy to take any questions.
That was good news though about you getting it funding. We both commented at the time that we weren't aware of probably that organisation, and it was just so good as you chimed in.
Yeah, and I might add that I did have a letter of support from Council and CHDC and Lachlan Club. So, and of course that document will be, when it's completed, will be made available to Council, even when we ever get to the stage of funding. It will be a supporting document for that.
No other questions, Councillor?
No, very comprehensive report, Scott. Honestly, you refreshed my mind about just how good that conference was. Yeah, and obviously, this is a great appendix to your report. We'll have a good mind that.
Right, so sorry, you're running through this.
Yeah, I'll keep going, Mr Mayor, if I can. But the second item is the actual Australian Life Government Association National General Assembly, and you've got two reports. So you've got a report prepared by Marnie, which she might like to speak to some of those things or answer any questions. But before, and she doesn't have to, but there's an opportunity there if she'd like to. But what I might do is take you through the mind map, which is a summary of the Alba event, if I can. And there is one page in A3 format there. That's right. I'm confused by the more to the right. And I'll just, these maps, they probably do at first look a little bit busy, but they're not once you get into them. So if you could follow through with it, we'll just work through it because it can convey an incredible amount of information in a reasonably short time frame. So we might start with the drought workshop, which is around about 3 o'clock. If you have a look, you'll see drought workshop, and we probably spent an hour and a half, 2 hours on this topic. Essentially, what the drought workshop sought to achieve is to work out what's working well, where are the gaps, and what needs to be done. So the delegates were able to offer up that the things that are working well in the drought space are shop local cards, an initiative where you can spend money in the local community, and water standpipe upgrades. Where are the gaps? The gaps are governments are not agile enough, not responsive enough. There needs to be more, the gaps are fodder subsidies, there's not enough in that area. And there's an inequity between some areas and the outer unincorporated areas. So that doesn't apply to Queensland, but when you look at those large tracts of land, namely to the west of New South Wales or the north of South Australia, those areas don't have a local government authority in place there, what's referred to as unincorporated areas. So there's So there's inequities there between how a council area is treated and an unincorporated area is treated. And what needs to be done? Well, these are the ideas that came out of that think tank. There needs to be a national fodder bank to prepare for drought circumstances. There needs to be extension of farm management deposit schemes to local businesses. There needs to be a drought insurance scheme. There's a need for governments to be in drought mode at all times so that they can be agile and responsive. And there needs to also be simplified processes. There needs to be rate relief, and there needs to be support for water cartage. And that was basically all the key points that came out of that draft workshop. And we might jump up to the elders focus areas, which is in blue. So I'll go quite quickly through this one because these things will resonate with you. You've seen it in a number of formats when we were preparing for the federal government election. So the focus areas for ALGA are doubling the roads to recovery allocation and making the bridges renewal program permanent. So they want to double R2R to $800 million per year to realise the productive potential of Australia's freight routes. And for that to be achieved, they believe $200 million a year for 5 years as a program is what's required. Protect communities from the impacts of natural disasters. Again, $200 million per year required for 4 years to achieve that. Another focus area is to promote healthier communities at a cost of $100 million over 4 years. To foster Indigenous wellbeing and prosperity. To strengthen Australia's circular economy. To support communities on their digital transformation journeys and to promote equitable access to community services. For that to be achieved, ALGA believe the federal government needs to provide $300 million a year for 4 years. Another focus area is to support communities with their climate change response, so $200 million over 4 years. And a little one specific to South Australia is to address the SA road funding anomaly at $20 million per year. And lastly, repair the federal funding to local government, and that's what's referred to as an amount of greater than or equal to 1% of tax revenue for FADs. And that's basically a quick review of what it is that ALGA are advocating for on behalf of the 540 odd members in Australia. Moving up or anti-clockwise, Michael McCormack, in his capacity as Deputy PM, addressed delegates, and he was an advocate or a supporter of constitutional recognition. He's also passionate about roads to recovery. He believes that all politics are local. This is very interesting. He said it's important to get the little things right, building better communities. And he said that approximately 24,000 small projects his government has on the go at the moment or is processing funding for. And he also encouraged councils to bring forward applications for smaller maintenance type projects, particularly in the first 12 months of his government, the little things. Now, he was very passionate about that, and the ALGA president was as well, by encouraging council, and I don't know through what forum or what application process, but the open invitation was given to everyone there. Get these projects in for consideration. The government wants to get some runs on the board in the first 12 months. And if you've got something that's, you have 80% of the business case complete or you almost have it ready, that's the sort of things that they want to hear about. And there's an opportunity for funding to be provided. So it would be a fool to sit and wait for the rule book to come out on how to take advantage of that opportunity. I think we've just got to have a go. So there's some homework there for us to do as a council in identifying what in our current budget or what may not have made our budget that we would like to put forward for consideration. So a bit of work to do on that one. He spoke about the pervading drought conditions and mentioned that his government was supporting 110 local authorities financially. He believes the inland rail will be transformational. He spoke about the national water grid and that the CSIRO has identified 6 potential dam sites in Australia. And under the National Water Infrastructure Development Fund, his government are very keen to construct a dam. Anti-clockwise again, the refer separate report on ALGA is the one that Marnie has prepared that's in the agenda. going counterclockwise again, Regional Cooperation and Development Forum, we've just been through that report, and now we get into the meaty stuff, which is the LGAQ breakfast briefing, where we had both Terry Butler, who is the Shadow Minister for the Environment and Water, who is representing Anthony Albanese, present, along with Scott Buchholz, MP, Assistant Minister for Road Safety and Freight Transport. And in typical fashion, LGAQ was able to equitably put questions to each of those representatives so that the Queensland delegates could hear the responses, and I'll take you through those very soon. Firstly, if I start with Scott Buchholz, he spoke about road safety and encouraged everyone to do better. He believes that infrastructure investment is the way to achieve better outcomes for road safety, and he encouraged Queensland councils to access the contestable funding that's available. He spoke about unemployment and it being a problem in areas that cannot source workers, and that was certainly evidenced by what Dr. Peter Brain had to say on the day before. I'll move over to Terry Butler and what she spoke about before we get to the Q&A. She warned about the economic problems ahead, again saying that monetary policy is ineffective. We heard from Dr. Kim Orton saying that both fiscal and monetary policy are ineffective on our economy at the moment. She believes that serious infrastructure investment planning is required, and her opposition government has a desire to find a common ground with local government. She said that her government has great respect for the institution of local government. She was humble and respectful of the compromised election result, and committed to being a constructive opposition government, not an obstructionist government. Down to Q&A, if I start on renewable energy, Scott Buchholz didn't really answer the questions. He responded by being critical of energy markets. On the other hand, Terry Butler, in response to a question on renewable energy, spoke about job security concerns and a need for greater investment. Moving to the question of what they thought of the 1% of tax revenue for FAGs, Federal Assistance Grants. Scott Buchholz was not across the matter, and he stated, I guess in defence, that the accumulated value of the contestable programs on offer by the federal government would probably exceed the 1%. Terry Butler, on the other hand, when questioned about that contribution to FAGs, wasn't able to make a commitment. And I guess you can understand that, being new in shadow government, but I'm sure they will take a look at that. In fact, they'll have to, because they're being pressed by the LGAQ and by ALGA to respond to that concern. Moving to the question of road safety issues, specifically the first mile, last mile matter. Scott Buchholz said targeted national education programs are required. Terry Butler said she concurred with Scott Buchholz. We need to also target driver distraction. In relation to the question on constitutional recognition, Scott Buchholz said he's not concerned for the matter. On the other hand, Terry Butler said it's a very important matter that the shadow government will look at. I'll move now to future challenges. I can gloss over that quite quickly. These are the big headline issues that ALGA are concerned about, and that they believe that there needs to be, they're monitoring these issues, and they believe council should be concerned about these future challenges, and they are the US and China trade war, Reserve Bank actions, and the retail recession that's occurring in Australia. Anti-clockwise again, interesting session on reducing community harm. So this was about basically substance abuse and it being on the increase in Australia. 4.5% of deaths in Australia, or 6,000 people die from substance abuse in Australia, and it's a startling statistic. And as a result, to try and combat this problem, there is the National Drug Strategy, which is about reducing demand, reducing supply and reducing harm. And this session focused on learning from the Icelandic model by employing community-based prevention strategies, specifically local drug action teams, of which there are 244 presently in Australia. Needs are greater in regional and remote Australia. We did look at 3 case studies, they being the Blue Mountains, Moree and the Murray Ridge Safe Youth Ambassador Program. These community-based prevention initiatives like local drug action teams, they bring community-based organisations together and they build strong partnerships, they identify issues, they plan action, they implement action plans and then they measure success. And that was a fairly...
Is that run through Planet Youth? Are they under Planet Youth?
No, that organisation wasn't mentioned. No, but I should have said at the outset that if any council would like further information on any of these topics, it wouldn't take much for us to be able to access it because we've either got the contacts, details of the presenters or some of the material that we brought back from Canberra. But if you would like to know more, council sites.
Okay, yeah, just on that one,
We'll look into
I'll
that.
just catch up on that.
I'll move counterclockwise again, and Jason Clare, this is in the green, around about 7 o'clock. Jason's the Shadow Minister for Regional Services, Territories and Local Government, Housing and Homelessness. Again, a lot like his colleague Terry Butler, very humble. Seeks to work with local government as partners, not as stakeholders. He sees strong benefits in groups of councils cooperating and jointly advocating. Lucky for us that we've got a strong group of the CQ regional organisation of councils. He spoke about the Stronger Communities Fund, and this is the funding we've certainly got an association with through local member for Flynn, Ken O'Dowd. This is the $150,000 fund for each of the 150 electorates in Australia. And Jason was challenged by the Alba president as to why the Labor policy on local government was only provided 3 days prior to the recent election, and I guess he didn't really have a response to that would have satisfied the delegates. But the Alba president certainly wasn't hesitant putting that challenge to him. Almost at the end, down around about 6 o'clock. Other great opportunities for councils are to be part of the artificial intelligence revolution, specifically how to apply AI to what we do. And also local government should play an innovative role in addressing affordable housing. Well, we get a tick in the box there. I'm sure we can do better, and we will. And lastly, at the bottom of the page, at 6 o'clock, all of council's motions were supported. They being the one on mobile black spots, biosecurity and regional airport funding. That was a good result. And again, that's a really quick way of looking at what happened over a couple of days. It's not the traditional style of report writing. You've got that in what Marnie's prepared, and we're happy to either pick over to Marnie or hand back to the Mayor for questions.
No, I'm just very thankful that council supported me into attending this conference. I think it's very beneficial. I agree with Scott. It's very good conference, and I do recommend it for people to attend. And pretty much what Scott captured in the mind map is good. It's pretty accurate of, a good summary of what happened over the 3 days. The only thing that I would like to comment on is, I remember, Deputy Prime Minister of, I think it was Michael Cormack, said that we should thank ministers who give us funding. So it's something that I know that we ensure that we do write letters back, say thank you for the funding that we do get, because it does assist communities in progressing with projects.
Any other questions, councillors? All right, we'll go on then.
All right, no worries. Council, draw your attention to item 3, which is a meeting with Mr. Warwick Agnew. Warwick is the Director General of the Department of Local Government Racing and Motor Cultural Affairs. That meeting took place on July 10. Representing council was Mayor Councillor Kerry Hayes and myself. And I'll summarise this one quite briefly. I'm sure you've read it. Basically, we took the opportunity to discuss the proposed state government mine royalty infrastructure fund, which is quite temporary at the moment. Mr. Agnew asked, I think, a very important question, He asked council where it sees itself at in terms of meeting future infrastructure and asset requirements. Good question. And in part of Mayor Hayes' response, he explained the need for council to continue to invest in order to maintain and improve livability, to retain and grow population, to maintain our assets so that we don't have failures in the future. We talked about a number of other things, topics like our airport, mining camps, the role that they play, tourism and how important it is, regional collaboration, decentralisation, transport logistics, the proposed meatworks, the benefit of the maturing infrastructure investment pipeline, the grants survey review results, and the importance of funding. It was a very useful meeting, and it also included a couple of site visits to the sale yards and also to the botanical gardens, so that the Director General could see firsthand the benefit of those grant funds being put to use. And I've included a couple of photos, but I've been briefed deliberately, so the Mayor might like to add a little bit to that.
Other than just responding to the fact that obviously he was keen to see, I suppose in a regional run that he was doing, he's heading out to Longreach that afternoon. That, you know, obviously we put our Works for Queensland signs up in prominent locations, and I just want to give you a flavour of sort of things that happened. We were there on Wednesday, which was during the school holidays, so if you look at that photograph, you couldn't have got a better weather crowd than going to the town, to the botanical gardens, because obviously there was about 150 young families and kids riding bikes and using all the facilities that have been part of, you know, some of the funding of the programs. And he literally walked down. So we did 2 stops. We actually stopped there at the new car park that had just been sprayed down. So Tony, it is Alex Eames was there. And then we went across to the Marathon Mill, and Tony Stanton was there, sorry, but that's mixed up. And Tony took us for a walk across to find out where Councillor Brimblecombe hangs around in the park there. So we went across to the marbles and had a look at and look at potentially the flying fox roosts were over there, but we actually just wanted to show you the width of the pathways, all those improvements on the east and western sides, and I guess reiterated the importance of, you know, these sort of community assets that obviously contribute greatly and obviously would be used substantively on that day as well. So made that point, and probably just to reaffirm the fact that you know, we as a council were certainly very taken, I guess you'd say, had given, I suppose, our organisation very clear instruction about how we expect our Works for Queensland monies in the future. It's something we've learned. We're in a region where over the 2 years that we had the benefit of that funding, that you know, obviously the availability of contractors and other work had gotten increasingly difficult to achieve in the year, and he understood that. So I guess we sort of cleared the slate there, and we talked about some of those future things there. So he was very happy. He left about 11:30. Yeah, 11:30. And yeah, certainly got to see the sale yards, those couple of points at the Botanic Gardens, and couldn't help but say he'd already seen the signs on the way to council on the garden beds that were either at the airport gates and certainly at the town entrance signs there. So he was, I guess, very happy.
I guess now I should add too that we've started to see there, in terms of the Mayor introduced the Director General to some mums who were present, and as this is the gentleman who supports funding applications from council and is everything else you need, and they were very quick to retort and say that the toilets are too far away. Because of the investment that council's made in the Botanical Gardens, they recognise the toilets are too far away. When you've got multiple kids under your control, you've got to go out of sight to get to the toilet. So that might be a future project that might be supported. And the need for additional swings, because while there's a whole lot of stuff there, there's not a lot of little swings. And so if we took that on board.
So we just acknowledge Jerry Houston, Kelly Bloomfield and Alan Tower, who have been strong community advocates, bringing all their children along, and obviously having them holding our hands and walking along with us as we they showed us all their play equipment, so it couldn't work out better. So, not the mothers, the children, not the parents.
What was the purpose of his visit? You know,
I think
I know
just,
we've shared, I know that in the report, there's a lot that we've shared with him, but was there any purpose to him being in the region?
no, just visiting the local government. It was he said a regional swing, and he wanted to head west, so he picked here to fly into, grab the car and head to Longreach. And obviously had requested that we look at Western Queensland and the local LDGSP projects that were available for him to see in that visit. And it would seem, on the basis of DSD's recent activity and DAF and his department, there seems to be a clear directive from the state government. They want to get out in the communities, in the regions, find out what's important. And that's a bit of a change up, although I'm very happy about that. But he was, certainly keen on, just as keen on knowing what we were looking at in the future as he was what the projects we'd actually set out to do. But the ones we chose were clearly only based on accessibility on the timeframes we had. But I think it was more about articulating the strategy around the fact that sale yards and the importance of that have been through a mid process and was important to the region's economy. Things like the tenant gardens were clearly representative of, the livability sort of strategy the council clearly articulating, and obviously the things like, the airport improvements and things that we see as, keeping us connected to the rest of the state. So it was pretty convenient that, he dropped in on all of those sort of things. So he just jumped in the car, so I was heading to Barcalls and then to Longreach just to obviously look at some of their projects as well.
And on, in relation to Botanical Gardens, Mr. Mayor, I think, it's obvious that those investments have really improved, I guess, livability and really bringing people together. So we try and consider scalable investments in the other communities, but obviously if we can get it right and appropriate within our other communities, really can, I think, dramatically improve livability in our smaller communities. So certainly a challenge there for us for the future. If councillors are happy, I'll move over on to item 4, which is the Warrabinda Aboriginal Shire Council Government Champions Meeting held on the 12th of July. I put forward apologies on behalf of both the Mayor and Deputy Mayor who weren't able to attend. The council was ably represented by Manager of Water Utilities, Peter Manning, and myself. And I'll just take you on a really quick tour of the topics that were covered in that meeting. We talked about Black Boy Camp. I'll go into a little bit of detail on Acres Creek Road. So this is specifically the sealing of Acres Creek Road to the Foley Vale Terminal. Noting that Rookwood Weir will have an impact on that Mackenzie River Bridge and the approaches to the same, but that shouldn't dissuade government from wanting to invest in that, sealing that road network. So TMR would like to treat this road like the Endeavour Valley Road and Hopevale Aboriginal Shire Council, where local contractors were able to contribute to the project, build capacities and establish sustainable businesses. Mr Scales, who is the government champion, he's the Director General, he's the nominated government champion under the Queensland State Government's Government Champion Program for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community. He requested that discussions to progress this investment be taken offline. I do note here that Narramoo Resources offered to assist with the recruitment and training of Aboriginal employees. Mr Scales confirmed that the project needs to be overseen by RoadTech, so that was probably shutting down that offer. So that's something that's some more homework for us to do. We need to follow up on that conversation. The meeting talked about the Youth Hub initiative at Warrabinda, the Cultural Way proposal, the Foley Vale Pastoral Company. I might elaborate on this one. So Minister Mark Ferner is keen to assist Warrabinda develop its abattoir proposal. Lou Markey, who we all know, is assisting Warrabinda to develop a business case. Mr Scales is working on a transport connectivity project to provide redundant linkages. This is road linkages between key cattle, road and rail linkages between key cattle supply areas and processing facilities. Warrabinda clarified that the outcome sought is to retail Foley Vale meat to the Warrabinda community. Mr Scales encouraged Warrabinda to work with Mr Johnson, this is Mr Vaughan Johnson, who participated in the meeting via telephone conference. Encouraged the council to work with Mr Johnson on the project. Mr Johnson remarked that the existing vandalised abattoir at Waterbender could be refurbished and operated. He believes by re-entering the market in a simple fashion, a boutique market underpinned by a business plan could be established at Waterbender and Blackwater and through regional butcher shops. In preparation, the Foleyvale Pastoral Company is developing a better line of eating cattle. Talked about the football ground lighting project, town entry signs, and TMR agreed to organise those signs for Waterbender. These are welcome signs. As you know, there's 2 entry points in the Warrie. The visit to Myuma camp at Camberwell was referenced again. I think the Waterbender delegates got a lot out of that visit. So they're committed to develop training opportunities for Aboriginal men and women to produce work-ready people for the many regional job opportunities which exist. And Waterbender have been quite astute in recognising that there is a problem with employment in the region, in that there's not enough people to fill the jobs. So if they can ready their young men and women, then they can take advantage of those opportunities. Not a Waterbender, but regional. Very smart approach. The wetlands project was spoken about, quite exciting. They're about to take on 11 trainees the week, or they would have taken on this week, which is impressive. The Rookwood Weir project was spoken about, and Waterbender are keen to leverage local employment and training opportunities. Mr Johnson reiterated strong support for the Rookwood Weir project to benefit the 1,100 strong population of Waterbender, and I echo Council's similar views for the Jaringa community. Narraboo Resources again pitched their services, and Narraboo have only been around for 4 months, but it's a business enterprise established by Graham Walker, Artie Stokes and Robert Beckett. So to that end, they were asked to provide a capability statement about what it is that they can do, and they've since done that, and I believe that that's been distributed to meeting participants. The MOU, this is the meaty bit of it, that was spoken about. Good progress has been made. There's been finances allocated to a weed project for 1920, and there's 150,000 earmarked for 2021 for road-related projects. Vaughan Johnson inquired about the future road upgrades plans for the Jaringa-Bahinia Road. I expressed our vision for the Acres Creek Road, the Jaringa-Bahinia Road and Bahinia-Taroom roads. And Vaughan Johnson solidly reinforced our council's view and added that this is an important redundant link that will be a game changer to the freight task once the Mackenzie Bridge is upgraded. Comment here, Mr Scales spoke favourably about the future investments for these roads, acknowledging that incremental progress has been made at present, and I suggest that's another thing we need to follow up on when we meet to talk about the Acres Creek Road investment offline. The water partnership, the other meaty part about our association with Waterbender was spoken about, and it was good to have Peter Manning on hand as our manager of water utilities to talk about some of the specifics that are being achieved there, and that's largely an exchange of knowledge because we share identical water treatment plants. Well, I should say our water treatment standard Comet is identical to the one at Waterbender, so there's some synergies there. But more importantly, we're organising training collectively, and they're happy to send staff up to Emerald for training or Blackwater for training, and we're happy where possible to send our staff down there for training. So this is a really good neighbourly partnership. More recently, Margaret Gatt, our General Manager for Corporate Services, is through her team, is providing assistance and advice to Waterbender on plant and workshops, and that's been invaluable for them at the moment, and that could manifest into a commercial arrangement. No pressure from us. In fact, we take the approach that we would never impose anything, but we're more than happy to help if asked, and that's what's happening at the moment. The contentious dual control visual message board was spoken about. This is a joint initiative, or a tripartite initiative really, between Waterbender, Central Highlands and TMR, and it was agreed that it would be beneficial to complete that project soon, so that's some homework for me to get on and achieve that. There's a couple of typos in the next dot point around the signage replacement project. This is quite important because we've been quite critical of the state of the signage between Emerald and Rockhampton, particularly the white on green and white on brown signage. TMR confirmed that they've got budget for the upgrade of all signage required between Rocky and Emerald. However, just that Waterbinda are only interested in the works between Bingo and Westwood, so that'll be a good opportunity for them to make some money out of carrying out those signage installations. The 2019 Reconciliation Awards, our MOU was nominated, specifically by the Tripartite Agreement plus the Water Initiative. It was unsuccessful. However, we're going to resubmit it because we all believe in it and what it's achieving. So we'll renominate that for 2020, and Mr. Scales took the opportunity of acknowledging the efforts of both Woori and Central Highlands in preparing the submission. The Queensland Hospital and Health Services Aged Facility was discussed. I might have misspelled Ed's name there, Councillor Bell. I've got Cassidia, but I'm not too sure how to spell his name. He was in attendance at the meeting. A health partnership forum focused on health worker training is being organised, and a Blackwater Hospital upgrade was discussed as this facility is accessed by the Waterbinda community. I'll gloss over the next dot point, safe to say that a new permanent PCYC will be organised for Waterbinda, and that is a major achievement, and that everyone is hopeful that that will address some of the concerns that they have in the community. And Mr. Scales, in talking about that matter, acknowledged that he is has an interest in that. He sits on the PCYC board, so he also offered if there's anything that he can do to keep that project on track, that he's going to do that. There was an update from the Department of State Development, Manufacturing, Infrastructure and Planning, DSD MIP, and that was through Richard Austin. Potentially some homework for us. He advised that the recent Building Our Regions workshop funding application by Waterbinda was unsuccessful. He offered to support Waterbinda in future to assist it to prepare its funding applications, and he inquired if our council would review their applications. I guess I was a little bit hesitant, but I agreed to provide the support in conjunction with DSD MIP. I think we've got to be a bit careful in the role we play there. I mean, we're more than happy to provide support, assistance, guidance, but we don't want to be the editor or a co-contributor to those applications. We need to manage that responsibility. He encouraged Waterbinda to acquire the building better regions, building our regions and maturing the infrastructure investment programs. He offered to further develop Waterbinda's vertical gardening and red claw projects to application stage. There's an attachment in relation to the Thriving Remote and Discrete Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Communities program, and encourage councils to have a look at that if you haven't already. There's no focus on removing the alcohol management order. A women's domestic violence centre, circa $2.5 million has been constructed at Waterbinda by Waterbinda. And one of the amazing things that the Waterbinda Aboriginal Shire Council does do is that it builds its own houses, it maintains its workforce, and the quality of the housing stock is fantastic. And for them to be taking on this project, $2.5 million to build this shelter, that's a feather in their cap that would only have been able to achieve through having that demonstrated ability in constructing community housing. And happy to answer any questions.
Questions, councillors? Any information?
Yeah.
And thank you, mate, for your contribution as well, for that, obviously taking those notes and certainly the experience down there. I think it was tremendous that you came and shared that experience with us. I mean, your obligations here are quite extensive, and obviously that exposure to the, I guess you'd say people in like the government right across Australia makes it a valuable tool for you going forward.
Sorry, Chair, just one question to Scott. The tourism signage upgrade, will there be more information coming out about that from TMI?
The visual message board.
Oh, no.
Sorry, the signage.
The signage.
Two projects. So that project is day one at the intersection of the Doringa-Bahinia Road, and there are two entrances. Just as you turn off and start driving in those roads, they want welcome to Waterbinda.
Okay.
TMR was saying that they don't traditionally fund those types of signs, and they did suggest that trainees could be utilised to make some timber type signs, some have some local content involved. The council weren't overly enthused about that, and that ended by TMR saying, well, they'll organise something, so they'll do something.
So not extending it out.
I thought you said that about, upgrade the signage.
We're only interested in doing the sign work.
Yeah, that's another topic. So,
In their section, but the
Yeah.
rest of it sounds like stuff.
so from Rocky to Emerald signage,
Yeah.
all signs that are dilapidated, faded, or otherwise will be replaced. And from Dingo to Westwood section of the highway, Warrie will do that under contract to Road Team,
And the rest.
will be done by Road Team.
Okay.
Yeah. So for me, that's, and the mayor and any others that travel the road regularly, that's fantastic news, because I
I can't even see this.
know we've been putting lots of complaints in, and it's just good news to know that the funding's there to do it.
It was,
About how long that might be.
is there more information about when is that going to?
I will find out, because my executive assistant, before I attended that meeting, has already drafted a letter on my behalf to ask what's going on, when will it happen?
Yeah.
Because it's very frustrating, so it's good to go to that meeting and find out it's happening, but I'll still send the letter so that we can get that level of information back, and I will share that with all councillors.
Thank you very much, so it's nice time.
So councillor, conscious of the time, the recommendation right back at the start of that was that we received that that departmental update. Someone happy to move that? Moved by councillor Grimblestone, seconded by councillor Daniels, all in favour? Against? Sorry, I just lost, two against that.
No, you said again. I thought you asked
Sorry,
something
no,
again.
I got lost because councillor Nixon disappeared, then I saw an apparition over here on the left. Sorry. Yeah, councillors, there's a late agenda item there that you would have received in relation to, decision in relation to some disaster resilience funding. Kim, you're going to lead that. Or, yeah.
Councillors, we all were advised about 3 weeks ago that we were successful in 2 applications that we put in for the Queensland Disaster Resilience Fund. One of those was the flood mitigation study, and the other one is the SES recruitment trailer. Total project budgets for those combined is 145,000. It is funded 50% funded by QDRF. Both of those projects were put up for budget consideration for this year, but were not endorsed. So the purpose of this report is to ask for a budget amendment to match this funding to get these projects happening.
Or alternatively.
Or alternatively, decline
Decline
that
the funding.
funding.
So my question through the chair would be, if we declined them and kicked them out of the budget, why then were they put up for grants that we still now have to put 50% up for?
Well, this was, see, the resolution there was from March, which was that we include those 5 projects in, and then obviously through the budget process, they kicked in. We should have beg us 2 questions. One is that we probably should have been aware of the fact that we had lodged them for the funding, probably whilst we're deliberating. And secondly, I would have liked to have seen if there was a proposal here where that money would come from, or whether there are other projects that we could have.
I just always feel that when we say no to something, they put it in for a grant, and then we still got to, even though we don't agree, we've still got to kind of fund 50%. It's just a sneaky way of undermining council's decision.
I'm not going to be so uncharitable, councillor, so I just think it was, the timing was, obviously that resolution was just at the time we were considering voting. So,
And I'd like to add on to that if I can, Mr Mayor, the council, I guess the approach that's been taken by council in the past is that we have tried to leverage as many grant funding application opportunities as possible. And I know that particularly Glenn Bell, as our local disaster coordinator, has been doing that successfully for a long period of time. And I do note that we need to evolve our processes so that we're actually seeking permission to apply for funds before applying for the funds, because obviously being successful carries with it certain implications. So I believe on this occasion certainly was a timing issue, but I also just remind council that it has been the way for some time now to try and maximise those funding outcomes, and we've usually brought those back to the table and council have been able to find the funds to enable us to accept the grants. We're trying to do things different. We're trying to be smarter.
Repeatedly asking for that to happen and not to be so reactive to grants, yet it continues to happen.
Well, there is an option there, as you put it into another option, another alternative.
Well, I think in this case, and I'm taking the face value that because of the timing, that there should have been, I think, a consideration in the budget if there was obvious. I mean, I know there's five projects and you couldn't have obviously budgeted for half of it, but I mean, the reality is I would have preferred to see someone come back with the alternatives about how you were going to fund it now that you were successful. So I don't know what we do there, councillors.
Well, I mean, it's difficult to make a recommendation here today when we don't know how it's going to be funded. $72,000, and I recall going through the budget process just how tight it seemed to be, and that would have been a lot of money. So just like to understand if this comes on, what drops off.
It'll come back to us. And through the chair, I would suggest that we defer the decision. I do not have a budget.
No, that's fine. Councillor, how
Well, I
many?
can find it from somewhere. So.
Yep.
It's a BR1 review.
Well, look, you know, the facts are that we obviously as a council thought it was reasonable enough to put it in as a fund. What we need to do now is if it is successful, two things. If we're trying to be smarter, well, if we're going to put it in, obviously then have the budgetary process in place that indicates where we're going to cover it off, so that obviously when it comes back to you, we don't need to do this. And we're talking about what we're doing, $70-something thousand.
$72,500.
$72,000. Right, council, I'd be happy to defer that, please, on the basis of more information.
This needs procedural resolution, which is a move around.
Yeah, so I'm able to move that. Move that we defer the motion. Thank you. Moved by councillor Godwin Smith. All in favour? Against? Thank you. Right. Councillor, general business. I think that's what we're up to. Before we go into closed session. Councillor, I want to make a couple of notes. So I think we did talk this morning about the recent meeting with DSD on behalf of RDA in respect of the Central Queensland Regional Office for Local Government meeting. So the mayors and councillors and officers from 12 councils were facilitated by DSD here at the CQ University. That was held last Thursday. And I just wanted to run through, I guess, acknowledge the fact that that meeting is now being held and there were some priorities, I guess you'd say, identified at that council meeting, at that meeting of councillors that DSD will actually send back to council. I guess in terms of the outcomes, it was quite unique that there was members of the Western Queensland Local Government Association, and I guess arguably all the members of the CQ ROC. With the exception of obviously Rockhampton did not attend, they've just withdrawn from the CQ ROC. So literally all the councils from Gladstone and Livingston out to Diamantina attended. All their mayors were present, along with mostly CEOs or some of their key staff, as was Mike Haywood on behalf of Urubinda. So all the councils were represented. So there was a meeting there. And that obviously will be some interesting results that come back to council. The second one was councillors through the CQ ROC. Councillor Bill Ludwig put a proposal to the CQ ROC probably 6 months ago in relation to forming a sister city relationship on a regional basis as probably an addendum to current relationships that Livingston and Rockhampton have with a region in Zhongjiang, I think, in China. And please forgive any of my pronunciations here forward. I don't get all these right. But the reality is, I suppose, and the part we need to consider at some point is that as part of that sister city regional relationship, all the members of the ROC will have an individual area that they will be, I guess you'd say, partnered with. under some formal agreement. We haven't had that actual, I suppose you'd say, formal invitation, and I suspect in these protocols you'll need that. But they're indicating that they would like to invite us, representatives from this council, to that region in October, which I suppose is very short notice given that we haven't discussed it. But I'll get some more information to councillors, but that's just a bit of a heads up. The representatives from that region were actually out here at the DSD meeting with those councils, and were able to meet with some of the other councils here. And the other one I just wanted to mention was with the Central Highlands Development Corporation Fund Fine Dining event that was held in Brisbane last Tuesday night. There's obviously about 70 attendees at that particular dinner that obviously focused very much on produce of the Central Highlands. Councillors, the directors of CHDC and CEO Scott Mason as the director attended with Deputy Mayor Gareth Smith, along with 70 other guests, and that range from the Minister for Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries, Mark Ferner, the Chief of Staff from the Premier's Department, Rachel Hunter, DG's Dr. Beth Wood from the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries, and others, senior representatives from Qantas, TIQ rather, NAPCO, Australian Agricultural Company, Qantas, and lots of other, I guess you'd say, companies and businesses and departments that support the Central Highlands. In several partnerships were present. It was a fantastic evening. And I'd say the stars of the evening were the local producers that actually came along and presented their product at the dinner. So, Deputy Mayor, you might help me here. Sheena and Baden Priddle obviously talked about their pork. We had Nagoa Dorcas that actually contributed to one of the meals there. Digby Dunbar and his initiative that he won the local hackathon that was run certainly by CHDC, produced his microgreens. There was macadamia nuts obviously and produce provided by Hinkler Park. There was mandarin supplied by 2PH. Radical Seeds provided all the seeds and produce that went with some of the food. I think it'll be fair to say by those present that some of the people there thought it was probably one of the best meals they've ever had. And so all of those products were there. As I said, Sheena and Baden spoke. We had then quite a large branded products from NAPCO, who have properties at Cunjalella at southwest of Springshaw. So their five founders beef was also on there. So we had a range from small producers up to those large producers were present at that dinner. And I can assure you that it has been just absolutely unanimously great praise for the region, for the initiative, and certainly those local producers. Minister Mark Ferner passed on his regards to this council, and he particularly asked us to pass their regards on to Councillor Paul Bell. And obviously everyone that was present there that walked out the door after that meal said it was probably one of the best dinners they'd been involved in. So look, I just wanted to thank the CHDC for obviously facilitating that, but just recognise those producers that actually spoke on the night: Paul Murphy, Sheena Baden, Phil Cummins, and Kata Stretch. I think that might have been it. I think that's pretty much covered. So, and all those other products. Sorry.
The chef.
And the chef obviously obviously took the products that we brought down to him, did a fantastic job, and obviously the members of the Char Advisory Board were present as well. So in terms of promoting the region, it was a fantastic success. Had a great location. The concept of obviously promoting the region to our great partners and collaborators and supporters was very much appreciated by those people that have been certainly the beneficiaries of our great feast. So it was well appreciated. But that was it. Sorry.
Just if I can comment through Mr. Mayor, my capacity as a director of CHDC, I thought the venue change and the shift away from the Ekka time worked very successfully, and I too thought that 4 dinners in, this was by far the most effective, and I think it's to look forward I hope that council, through supporting CHCC, continue to run the event, because I think we'll get bigger and better, but well, not bigger, but more effective in terms of enhancing those relationships with key parties. It was a job well done on behalf of CHCC.
No, and obviously this is the fourth year that CHDC have extended the invitation for me to come along and represent my fellow councillors at that event, and I wholeheartedly support both of your comments in relation to the continuation, but also the success of this event. I think, 4 years in, you can see the benefits of that relationship development. People, it's like, it is really coming together, and I think in time we'll see the benefits of those relationships, whatever form they take, but the produce is something we can be truly proud of, and the fact that the producers come on board and share their personal stories really makes it quite special and unique. And the flavours, and I have to say, probably the standout menu item, probably at our table, was the Paul Murphy's sorghum that they popped, and there was a beautiful, I don't know what sort of sauce it was, but it took it next level. So if you can imagine a dessert with popped sorghum as a popcorn, it was actually incredible. And we had quite a lot of chat, and it was very delicious. But yeah, very, very successful event. So obviously big shout out to Kylie Hawkins and the team over there, and the CHAR group, and CHDC for a tremendous event.
Thanks, Carl. Councillors, any other general?
If I could, Mr. Mayor, I may have been a little bit off earlier in the meeting, but I was unsure whether you called if we could review our outstanding actions and upcoming agenda items. You did, I was asleep. I just would have asked and would like a little bit of an update on the Silica Road works that we're undertaking at present. And this, in particular, the road heights in comparison to pre-work and now post at different segments right along that road. I do have, as do members of the public, have concern in that area.
Okay, through the chair, Councillor McIndoe, Anthony from KBR, that was here this morning, has received all the files necessary to do a full, in an attempt to do a full assessment of the potential impacts. As he said this morning, the grid is actually only down to 5 metres, so very hard to actually see any impact at all. I do have a brief email here from him that says that the road increase at the most is 90 millimetres, 90 metres, just south of Colbert. The remaining is consistent with existing height. Existing drainage system doesn't have very large culverts through it at all, which this works will now actually put in place, and will actually improve the drainage through the system. So the outcome of his email, because of the 5 metre grid, he is actually recommending that he doesn't run the model because the grid that the model is run over is not accurate enough to pick up a 90 mil change in the road surface or part of the length. So recommending that instead they draft a letter setting out all that detail and confirming that there will be no impact.
I'm just wondering, then, Phil, through the chair, 90 mil over a length of road that's 400 mil, you give that a cubic metre each rate, whether we'd allow any other person the opportunity to increase that land mass to the extent that we have on that project. And understanding that we have put some drainage work in that hasn't been modelled as well, I'm sure, as to the throughput and the modelling surrounding it. So I just have concerns over that project on behalf of, you know, the greater community. I guess I just share with them the concerns and where we're at with it.
So over the entire length of the road, we keep referencing that 90 mil, but that 90 mil is just in one small portion of the road. The entire length is actually a cut and fill exercise that is smoothing the actual longitudinal length of the road. There is other portions of the road where it actually drops 90 mil. So that the 90 mil increase is not full length, full width. It's just one small section.
Okay, so that will say from a correspondence perspective that there will be no substantial, no change at all to the hydrology of that. Sorry, Councillor.
Just a question, because Joe, it's been placed at 90, it's gone up, it's gone down, but also the tail road itself has been enlarged, hasn't it? So better drainage for that area?
Yes. So the increasing the capacity of the table drain was one of the original outcomes of the project. When there is small rain events, there is a lot of ponding along that road where the water actually does not flow. So that was the intended outcome in the smaller events to get the stormwater flowing.
Small rain events aren't flood events.
Sorry?
Small rain events aren't flood events, and if we've smoothed the road out and we've lifted at 90 here and dropped at 90 there, it still says 45 on average overall. 45 still makes a difference in a flood event. You know, a small rain event, yes, you'll get better drainage from the drain we have placed in there. In a flood event, potentially from what you're saying, we've cut 90 there and added 90.
That's zero.
Zero?
That's zero.
I'd love to see it. I'd love to see the finished heights. What we've actually lifted.
I can actually check to see if Bill is actually still in the building, if you prefer to talk to him, or I can get Bill to send through a report.
We would have, I think, for the comfort of those involved, that we need those heights over a period of that distance, pre and post.
Finished height of the road?
Silica Road.
Yeah. And we can send that through, we can attach that to the letter. We can show that the cut versus fill is actually zero, close to it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Magadar. Any other, sorry, Councillor Nick.
When I was up in Sapphire the other day, the memorial was at the RSL, and they gave me a basic version of a letter. A letter had come to council a few years ago, apparently, to get the road, Clinic Road it's called, get it sealed, because they've got 2 or 3 veterans there in wheelchairs who march down to the RSL there, our Anzac Day, and also go down there for socialising, and they can't get their wheelchairs up and down in the loose gravel. And they had applied to council before and apparently got a letter back. The secretary wasn't there, but Peter, the president, said that they had a letter back from council some time ago saying yes, it would be sealed, but nothing's ever happened. I'm just wondering if you could put it on the agenda to get it done anyway. It's not very long, but it definitely does need sealing.
That is not long, the road.
The road and the both.
All right, I'll do it. And that would have been addressed to the Gemfields RSL.
It's come from the Gemfields RSL. Ray Storr is the secretary, Peter told the president. And the secretary was away, so they just started it.
Right, not that down. Sorry, any more councillors? Yeah.
Yeah, just briefly, and apologies to council because we would have normally brought a late report for council's consideration. In taking a little bit of leave, there wasn't, I wasn't organised enough to arrange for a late report, but essentially there's a lady by the name of Mary O'Brien, and she's the driving force behind an initiative called Are You Bolt, Mate? And she's the driving force behind an initiative called Are You Bolt, Mate? And this is, I guess, a response to the issues faced by people on the land as a result of drought. And so far, she's been the sole financier of this initiative, and it's growing and growing. And at the end of the farm to fine dining dinner, the MC Mayor, Councillor Hayes, permitted Stuart Armitage to address the group, and he talked about Mary O'Brien, what she has achieved to date, where she's headed, and how she needs some financial support to take this further, because it's cutting through where a lot of government programs probably aren't as successful because of its practical approach. And if you'd like to have a look at Mary O'Brien Rural, she's got a website, or if you Google Are You Bolt, Mate, you'll find out a whole lot more about it. But there's a fundraising dinner being held on the 9th of August at Toowoomba to try and generate a little bit of financial support for this initiative. As a council, we'll provide a small amount of financial support. But what I wanted to bring to council's attention today as a late general business item is, would you be interested in sending a delegate, a councillor, to this event on the 9th of August?
I'd want to know a little bit more about the organisation first, and how the money's administered and all of that, and what they actually sponsor. I think that you need to know a little bit more information about it.
Yeah, I take your point. It was more, I guess, a little bit of running out of time and knowing that it's on the 9th of August and it might be something council wants to support.
There's lots and lots of organisations doing that same thing, locally.
Yeah, no, he was, he'd been approached by the chair of the National Farmers Federation, Stuart. So he just obviously wanted to highlight the dinner and just let people know that if they wanted to attend, it was on.
Yes.
So it's on.
All right. No problem. Thank you.
All right, councillors, well, I think we will be on a closed session. I'm assuming everyone else is here for that. So would someone like to move that we go into closed section? Moved by Councillor Nixon, second Councillor Brindle. Panel in favour? Against? Thank you. Oh, we need to change the resolution.
Yeah, we have. It doesn't, we're live streaming again, Mr. Mayor. What's proposed on the screen doesn't talk about commercial opportunity, but I believe the direction's been provided to officers to have those discussions. This is providing an answer to the substantive question. Council could deal with it as proposed on the screen, receive a note report, there are any number of things, but I guess that puts an end to the matter, and it probably helps those negotiations or discussions going forward, knowing that that's off the table.
Yeah, I'm not sure, do we need to mention that there is for future strategic land purposes? What if you change your mind?
We'll do that in the future.
No?
Yes, a strategic decision, isn't it?
So this effectively responds to the approach and then obviously allows for then return. Someone return. All right, is someone happy to move that?
I love
Moved by councillor Syphon, seconded. No, don't follow it. Councillor Brindlecombe, seconded. All in favour? Against, thank you.
Yes.
And then councillors, the second item is in relation to just noting that obviously that updated report in relation to the cyber incident, and that recommendation is that we received that. Also, I'm happy to move that. Moved by councillor Godwin Smith, second councillor Brindlecombe. All in favour? Against, thank you, councillors. All right, well that is it. Councillors, if there is no further business, I will declare the meeting closed at 5:45 PM. Thank you, everyone. There we go. Thank you.